Sports.
A complete team performance last night. The offense clicking behind Cody Ross. Wade Miley shut down the Rays bats all night long. And the Diamondbacks took the first game of an important 8-game homestand and gained ground on the NL West leading Dodgers. Tonight, Randall Delgado looks to keep things rolling. He's won 3 straight starts. The Diamondbacks go for the series sweep next on Fox Sports Arizona. Chase Field in downtown Phoenix, the Arizona Diamondbacks tonight, the second of a 2-game set against the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Diamondbacks in position tonight to get a series sweep against one of the best teams in baseball. Arizona Diamondbacks baseball is brought to you by Kia Motors. Good evening from Chase Field and welcome to the ballpark. Steve Berthume and Bob Brenly along the way. Game 2 of this 2-game set, BB, and an interesting pitching matchup. Young Randall Delgado for the Diamondbacks tonight, and Chris Archer goes for the Rays. This is a kid who was not only American League Pitcher of the Month last month, but Rookie of the Month as well.
You know, sometimes the best pitching matchups are not the household names, not the aces, not the guys you expect. Chris Archer coming off a tremendous month of July. He was just outstanding. Randall Delgado has been on quite a roll. Archer really kind of came out of nowhere. He was one of the players that went from the Cubs to the Rays in the Matt Garza trade. Has some trouble with his command from time to time, or at least he did at the minor league level, but has found that strike zone here for the Rays. Good fastball, good slider, good changeup.
He has been outstanding. A pair of shutouts last month, including a 2-hitter at Yankee Stadium. Interesting to see, Bob, the way the Diamondbacks bullpen has evolved here. We know about Brad Ziegler in the closer's role. He's been perfect so far. But the 2 guys before him who were the closers, Heath Bell and J.J. Putz, since their last blown save in new roles now as setup man, neither guy has given up a single run.
Both have pitched tremendous since their last blown save, and with Brad Ziegler settling into that closer spot, you wondered who was going to step in and be the setup guys. Those 2 right-handers, along with Joe Thatcher, have done a great job lately.
All right, so the Diamondbacks in position to get 2 here if they can against the Rays before the off day on Thursday. When we come back, it's a big day for Fox Sports Arizona at Chase Field. The road to the launch, the Fox Sports 1 fan bus is here right now, and the road to the launch is coming up. And the Fox Sports girls are here. We got a lot to talk about. First pitch coming up. Brazil guarantees the lowest price on a new AC system. Call George today. By Ram Trucks, proud partner of the Arizona Diamondbacks. And by Fulton Homes. You're proud to own, we're proud to build.
Cletus from Fox Sports 1 is in the house as the D-backs and Rays get set for Game 2 of this 2-game series, part of an 8-game homestand for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And you want to talk about a road trip. Well, Chase Field here in Phoenix, just a one stop along the way for Fox Sports 1 Fan Express, as I'm joined by Baxter, as he's always having antics, as it makes its way across the country, all getting set for the launch August 17th of Fox Sports 1. The bus pulled into Phoenix earlier today. The Fox Sports girls were there, Cletus, all along for the ride, 3,800 miles in all, and it culminates in Boston on the 17th to coincide with the debut of Fox Sports 1, America's new national sports network. For more information, log on to foxsports.com/road to launch. There's our Fox Sports Arizona girl, Danielle, with the first pitch tonight as we get set for the Diamondbacks and the Rays here on Fox Sports Arizona. It was close to a strike, all part of a very great effort. And again, it's August 17th, the launch of Fox Sports 1. We're back with D-backs Baseball live on Fox Sports Arizona in just a bit. It's Delgado and Archer. Steve and Bob back with a call in just a bit.
Tonight to hand these red-hot Rays their first series loss since June 18th and 19th in Boston. That was 49 games ago. Tampa Bay 11-0-2 in 13 series since, but the D-backs here tonight in position to get the two-game sweep against one of the best teams in baseball. Tampa Bay has lost 3 of its last 5. They have still, however, managed to put together a 25-7 run over their last 32, and it's a different look, Bob, to the lineup tonight.
That goes without saying because Joe Madden is their manager. Ben Zobrist at second base tonight, leading off, followed by Matt Joyce, Evan Longoria. It'll be Will Myers, James Loney, and Yunel Escobar in the middle of the lineup. Former D-back Kelly Johnson, one of the flying Molina brothers, Jose, doing the catching tonight, and he'll be receiving pitches from right-hander Chris Archer.
Randall Delgado from Panama, 23-year-old, 6'3" right-hander, his 11th appearance for the D-backs this year, his 10th start. Randall has not lost a game since July the 8th. He's won his last 3 starts.
Including his last one matched up against John Lester at Fenway Park. Gave up 2 two-run homers in that game. The other 2 runs scored because of a Didi Gregorius error. Really pitched much better than his numbers indicate in that game.
He's got to keep everything down and avoid the home runs, and when he does that, he is usually very effective. Ben Zobrist leads it off for Tampa Bay. Zobrist in the leadoff spot at .276 this year. He was 1 for 4 last night. Mention the home runs. That's what Randall has to avoid in the start Friday night in Boston. Not his best effort. 2 mistakes on pitches to David Ortiz and Stephen Drew that were hit for homers. But he did strike out 7 and walk only 1. In fact, he's had outstanding control lately. Delgado has walked 1 or no batters in 7 of his 9 starts. That one is driven to the gap in left center field. Adam Eaton on the run. And he won't get there. One hops the wall. Zobrist flies into second. He'll stop there with his 27th double.
Well, that just goes to show you how quickly an at-bat can swing. Randall Delgado threw a curveball that looked to be a pretty good pitch. It was called a ball by Tim Welke. Ultimately, the count goes to 3-1 instead of 2-2. And in those hitters' counts, guys are going to take aggressive swings, and Zobrist drives that ball all the way to the base of the wall, just to the left of straightaway center.
Leadoff man in scoring position for Tampa Bay. Here's Matt Joyce. Third base side. Chavez gives it a look, but it's out of play. Matt Joyce, 238, 14 home runs.
Even in the American League, with a runner at second base and nobody out, your job, especially as a left-handed hitter, roll something over that right side of the field, try to move Zobrist up to third base. And if you're Randall Delgado and Will Nieves, you're trying to avoid that. Try to stay away and make him hit the ball to the left side.
That's out of play as well behind the Diamondback dugout, and Delgado's ahead 0-2. Matt Joyce does not hit lefties. He is almost strictly a platoon player. 170 against left-hand pitching this year. He's over 250 versus right-handers, which is why we did not see him in the lineup last night against Wade Miley. Those are pretty big splits.
Another good outing for Wade Miley last night. 7 strong innings, gave up only 5 hits, struck out 5, walked a couple of batters, only 1 run. That was a solo homer off the bat of third baseman Evan Longoria.
Will Nieves back behind the plate. You got to feel pretty good about the way Wade Miley, Bob, has pitched to the last, well, really 2 months. There was a time at the end of May where he was really kind of searching for himself and his stuff. He found it with the help of Charles Nagy, the pitching coach.
Well, much like Randall Delgado, Wade Miley's always at his best when he's keeping the ball down, keep it out of the middle of the plate, work the corners, try to get some early weak contact. Miley's been able to do that pretty consistently over his last 6 or 7 starts.
2-2. Laid off those pitches in the dirt, and he's run it full. Conference time. This is one of those half walks for Will Nieves, Bob. We've seen him do that a number of times. He'll take a few steps out in front of the plate. That time he went only about halfway and just kind of gives you that quick, come on, let's go thing, and turns around.
And kind of changes the timing. You know, take a little bit more time before you deliver the next pitch. Maybe the rhythm was bad, or he felt the rhythm was bad, and that's one way you can kind of hit the reset button.
He'll often not give you the full mound visit. He'll just go out there for the little quick instant pep talk. But a good at bat here by Matt Joyce. It's hard to right. Cody Ross will watch it go foul. Here's another one. Just about halfway out. Quick word of encouragement. Back to business.
You know, home plate umpire Tim Welke appreciates that. He doesn't have to make that walk all the way out to the mound to break up the conference.
Another 3-2. Zobrist at second after the leadoff double. That one is down the right field line, a fair ball. Cody Ross slides and cuts it off. Zobrist scores. Cody bobbles it out there. And it's back-to-back doubles for Tampa Bay to open the ball game. 15th double this year for Matt Joyce.
Buggy whipped that ball down into the right field corner. We were hoping it was going to hook foul off the bat, but plenty fair down there. Cody Ross with the sliding attempt, picked it up, dropped it. I still don't think they would have had a play on Joyce at second base, but as it is, the Rays take an early 1-0 lead.
Now, how big a warning sign is this in the D-back dugout right now, Bob?
Getting pitches up. That's the thing we talked about. You mentioned it right off the top of the show. When he's down, he's effective. When he's up, he's very hittable. I'd like to see some quick adjustments here. Even bounce a few pitches if necessary.
Evan Longoria.
Another middle of the plate fastball. Fortunately, Longoria just taking a look at that first delivery from Delgado.
267 and 22 home runs. Number 22 here last night. Should say that homer was something of a bright spot for Longoria, and it's been kind of a tough stretch here. He has not hit well over the last 2 months. Last 10 games under 200. And again, a lot of discussion out there. Shortstop Didi Gregorius. They have Joyce hung up. He runs into and out if they can finish this off here. And Longoria stays at first. Base running blunder there by Tampa Bay.
You can almost excuse Joyce. That ball was hit so hard. I mean, he only took one step toward third base, but that's all it took because the ball was hit so hard. Didi got it quickly on to Aaron Hill, who gets Joyce running toward third base. That turns it into an easy rundown. That's the key to any rundown. Get that guy turned and running hard.
So they erase the runner at second. Longoria aboard at first. Will Myers drops that one in front of Martin Prado. Myers will not stop hitting. Batting .412 since the All-Star break. That leads the major leagues, and he's 1 for 1 tonight.
Notice the location of all these pitches that are getting hit hard by the Rays offense in the early going here today. Another one just center cut, middle of the plate.
So 4 hard hit balls by the Rays out of the gate against Randall Delgado. That brings up the left-hander. It's former Dodgers great James Loney. Another guy who sat out last night against Wade Miley. Loney back in there, and you can see his numbers. Very productive this year. 310 and 10 homers.
The potential for this to go from bad to worse with James Loney at the plate. He has the highest career batting average for active players here at Chase Field, .384. Only Lance Berkman has a higher OPS and a higher slugging percentage.
The ground ball right here for Randall would do him a world of good.
Yeah, here's how the game started for Randall. We've been talking about leaving pitches up to Ben Zobrist, up and out over the plate on a 3-1 count. He takes a very aggressive swing and drives that ball off the wall in left center. And then a hanging breaking ball to Matt Joyce. He bangs that one down into the right field corner.
And Delgado behind here, 2-0.
good news is if you can get Loney to hit the ball on the ground, he does not run well at all. He is a truck. He labors down that first baseline. He's bounced into 10 double plays already this season. Just got to get that ball down.
He's got that filing cabinet speed.
Runs like he's mad at the ground. Oh, he's a lot fast. Oh, he's not nearly as fast as that.
But he's been a good bat in this lineup. He got hot midway through June and really hasn't let up. In fact, since June 19th, he's at .333. Numbers that you mentioned, Bob. He likes to hit here.
A lot of visiting players like to hit here. Great hitters background. The ball carries really well. Yeah, you can see the batter's eye in dead center. Just very dark. The ball is tremendous contrast out of that dark background.
So already 23 pitches for Randall Delgado, and he's recorded only 1 out. There's the batter's eye behind the mound.
And believe it or not, in some ballparks around Major League Baseball, even for a night game, the lights will cause a little bit of a glare off the batter's eye in center field. It can be problematic. That's never an issue here at Chase.
I recall the oddest problem they had with the batter's eye was when they opened Target Field in downtown Minneapolis, and they had, of course, in Minnesota, all the beautiful outdoor country. They had tall pine trees out there as the dark green background, but as you mentioned, they'd get a reflection from the lights or the sun and it would create a glare, and they had to get rid of all the trees.
I think the worst ever was at old Jack Murphy / Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego, especially that late afternoon start, which is usually when the postseason games would start. Sterling Hitchcock made a living out of pitching in the dusk in San Diego. Yeah, get just a vicious glare off the bleachers and the facing of the bleachers in left center and right center field, right in the batter's face.
This is the previous pitch. Foul ball into the Rays dugout, and the Tat Man is there pouncing on it with the hat. Ryan Roberts went from Tat Man to Hat Man right there. Next to Wolverine there, Luke Scott. We'll do it again on 3-2. Driven to right, Cody Ross coming in. 2 down. Randall Delgado trying to strand these runners and keep it a 1-0 game.
It seems like we've said this a lot about Diamondback starting pitchers running up a high pitch count here. 26 already in the first inning. He's going to have to mix in some single-digit pitch innings. Try to level things out and get deep into this ball game.
There is the shortstop, Yunel Escobar. He was in the leadoff spot last night. He's 6th in the order tonight. 254 and 8 home runs. Escobar 1 for 4 last night. There's the hot cup of tea for Joe Madden down there at his usual spot next to hitting coach Dave Martinez. Delgado jumps ahead 0-1.
A couple guys in the ballpark here tonight that figure to be in line for managerial posts at some point in the very near future. Dave Martinez, one of those guys. Matt Williams on the other side of the field.
Hard to left, and that's a fair ball down the line. Longoria will score, and Myers is on the run. The relay from Didi Gregorius is offline, and it's a 2-run double for Yunel Escobar and a 3-0 Tampa Bay lead. 18th double for Escobar. That hurt.
There haven't been any cheapies in this inning. Everything has been hit hard. This one right on the button. Fortunately, Escobar doesn't get much elevation on that line drive down into the left field corner, but 2 more Rays cross the dish.
Charles Nagy to the mound. 28 pitches so far for Randall Delgado. Only 2 outs recorded and 3 runs. This is very uncharacteristic of Randall, who, as we mentioned, had won his previous 3 starts. He's pitched very well lately. Now he'll face former Diamondback great Kelly Johnson. Kelly Johnson, 253, 15 homers, second on the Rays this season in home runs, behind only Longoria's 22. George Hendrick dodges a shot down there. Ron Pennington, our Golden Glover, down the right field line, getting a perspective right near. There's the seat that pops up. Ron is manning the line in right. Lon Schlechter down there at left. So we have Ron and Lon on the lines. One and two to Kelly Johnson. This guy's been hot.
An inning like this, right away the guy's down in that Diamondbacks bullpen, anticipating that it might be an early night. That phone may ring down there way too early. Obviously Josh Colementor has been the guy that usually comes in to eat up a number of innings if necessary, but with 32 pitches, 33 pitches now in the first inning, you have to figure even if he settles in and pitches at the average, he's only going to be in there about 5, maybe 6 innings at best.
A lot of foul balls already. Escobar at second. Here's the 2-2. Great seats right behind home plate. Full concession service. Bring it right to you. Ouch, quit it. 35 pitches. The foul ball fest continues. Great seats.
Oh, about as good as it gets right there. Well, not quite as good as this seat.
This ain't bad. Very shallow left center field. Martin Prado's there, and that is finally the inning. They strand Escobar at second, but the Rays get 3 runs in. CenturyLink, your link to what's next. Paul Goldschmidt in interleague play. 6 home runs. Goldie coming up. Three 0 sent for the home half of the first inning, and a rarity for Kirk Gibson tonight, Bob. The same lineup as the previous ball game. This is the first time that's happened since July 5th and 6th. By the way, both those games were wins. They beat the Rockies.
Really liked what he saw from the offense in the ball game last night, a 6-1 victory. So he's running the same guys out there tonight. It'll be Eaton, Prado, and Goldschmidt at the top. Chavez, Hill, Ross in the middle, Nieves, Gregorius, and Delgado at the bottom.
This is a lineup that will face the Tampa Bay Rays. Kirk Gibson liked what he saw certainly last night. It ain't broke, don't fix it. So we'll hope for the best here against Chris Archer, the 24-year-old, his 13th start of the season. He's been outstanding, 6-4, an ERA just over 2.5. He was just named both American League Pitcher and American League Rookie of the Month for July.
Real good, explosive fastball, average velocity right at 95 miles per hour. Has a nasty biting slider similar to the one we saw from Tyson Ross of the San Diego Padres when we played them recently. Also has a straight changeup. As I mentioned earlier, occasionally can lose his command, but hasn't been an issue for him lately.
Adam Eaton back in the leadoff spot for Gibby tonight. And now we'll try and coach him up in the dugout here. The Yarnell 19 jersey still represented, of course. Charles Nagy and Randall Delgado. And now Jose Molina will pull a Will Nieves and give you the halfway to the mound visits. 2:03 for Adam Eaton on the year. Or J-Mo, as Jose Molina is often referred to by Joe Madden.
Some very stylish catcher's gear. I've never seen that particular color.
And how about Archer's socks? It's quite an ensemble this battery's put together. In fact, those Archer's socks. Molina looks a lot like Cletus, the Fox robot.
That's a good call.
It might be Cletus back there. Cletus is here on the
oh, that's beautiful.
Fox Sports 1 Fan Express, which is here with the Fox Sports girls, and that's Cletus the robot, one of the Fox trademarks here. And they look exactly alike.
Cletus is a little taller, but other than that, they're
he's
separated at birth.
He's also faster.
Yeah, that's true.
2-2. Base hit, Adam Eaton's aboard. So you've got J-Mo and Cletus.
Oh, that's spooky.
Gotta get him to put the mask down, then it'll really take full effect. And look at Molina telling this guy, just settle down, we're all right. Got the hockey mask going.
There you go.
Yeah, if you could get that intense sort of Terminator eye thing going, we'd really have it. Here's Martin Prado.
That's why they gave Cletus number 34, so you could tell the difference between Jose Molina and Cletus. Jose wearing number 28.
Prado number 14 in there at 267 to 9 homers. He had an RBI double last night. And Adam Eaton aboard at first, still looking for that first stolen base on the year. Now Bob down 3-0 here in the first inning. Do you put something on here with good speed on the bases, or do you worry more about having base runners down 3-0?
I think base runners, even early in the ball game. I mean, you may see Adam Eaton attempt a straight steal, but I don't think we're going to see any hitting and running or anything like that from Kirk Gibson. You rarely see that when the D-backs have a lead in the ball game. I don't think we're going to see it down 3-0 early.
1-1. This is what Chris Archer has.
It's good stuff. I mean, the four-seamer I mentioned in the mid to upper 90s. Hard, heavy slider, hard, heavy sinker, and a developing straight changeup. If he figures out that straight changeup, this guy's going to be one of the more dominant pitchers in the American League.
His last time out, actually, he was beaten by the Giants. That was at Tropicana Field on Friday. But over the last 5 starts, he has handled right-hand hitters. Here's the 1-2 to Prado. No, we did not go, says Mike Everett at first. Eaton holding all the way, and now it's full. Paul Goldschmidt on deck.
And part of the reason the Diamondbacks offense looked so good last night, and the reason Gibby running them back out there again tonight, was what we're seeing right here from Martin Prado. They were really grinding out at bats, getting some 3-ball counts, took some walks in the game. What we kind of grew accustomed to early in the season from the D-backs offense.
Adam Eaton is on the run. That's ball 4. A walk to Prado. First 2 have reached for the D-backs, down 3-0, and here comes Goldie.
Of course, we anticipated a pitcher's duel in the open of the show, and Randall Delgado struggles in the top half of the inning, and so far Chris Archer struggling here in the bottom half.
All right, you can match him struggle for struggle at this point.
Well, that's the attitude you have to have if you're Randall Delgado. That's all I'm going to give up tonight. Had a rough first inning. Go back out there, put some zeros on the board, give your offense a chance to get back into this ballgame.
Every time a Diamondbacks player hits a home run, Fulton Holmes will donate $150 to the Central Arizona Mountain Rescue Association. And here is Goldie, still leading the National League in RBIs, just 1 shy of 90, and only 1 home run behind Pittsburgh's Pedro Alvarez for the league lead. 2 on and nobody out in the first. A single by Eaton, a walk to Prado. And he is racking up the extra base hits.
A couple guys pitching tonight with baby faces. This looks like an American Legion game or something. A couple of teenagers going at it.
1-1. On the ground and throw. Matt Williams will wave Adam Eaton. Joyce, the throw is cut off, and there's a run. Diamondbacks on the board on RBI number 90 for the National League leader.
It goes without saying, this is great to see after giving up 3 in the top half of the inning. You go down quietly in the bottom half of the inning, it's going to seem like a real long ball game. But Diamondbacks offense grinding out some at-bats, a single, a walk, and then an RBI single from Goldschmidt, and they still have it cooking.
And a big hit for Goldie, who was 0 for his last 11 with runners in scoring position, but he's got RBI number 90. It's a 3-1 ball game. Good job by Prado to get to third on that. And there's still no outs. Runners on the corners for the red-hot Eric Chavez. 303 and 9 homers. A pair of RBI doubles last night. He has hit well against these Tampa Bay Rays, including 2 home runs at the Trop last week.
A lot of damage in only 3 ball games.
He's ahead 1-0. Prado at third, Goldie at first. Pull down the line. And wow. He put a charge into that one. And we've seen last night with the 2 doubles, further illustrating that when Chavez is in the lineup, Bob, and driving that ball to the left center field gap or pulling it down the right field line like we just saw, this is a different and much more dangerous D-backs lineup.
No question about it. And that last swing, that line drive foul down the right field line may spook Archer a little bit, keep him off of that inside part of the plate. Occasionally you can scare a guy right out of a location or right off of a pitch. If he throws you his best fastball on the inside part of the plate and you jerk it foul down the right field line, better be careful in there. Then you tend to scoot the ball out, throw a few more off-speed pitches, and that's playing right into Eric Chavez's strength.
Yeah, just throw one down and away and let him drive it into left center. Going to come inside here. 96, it's 1-2. The Penrod family rivalry is on. Apparently relatives in Tampa. And they've shown up to play. Game on. That's a big league sign. Fox Arizona, Fox Florida logos on there. The map, the arrows, the whole thing.
Geographically correct maps. Nice going.
1-2 to Xavi.
Both teams came into existence in that 1998 season.
Now, where are the other Penrods? Are the Tampa Penrods here? Are they behind the sign? Is that them? Have to get to the bottom of that later. Another 1-2 to Eric Chavez. Two and two. Eric Chavez thriving once again in that cleanup spot, tucked in behind Paul Goldschmidt, and now with Aaron Hill back. This trio forms a very effective right group in those 3, 4, and 5 spots.
Now it makes it tough, especially late in the game, for that opposing manager to try to play matchups.
Just to remind Goldie, they haven't forgotten about him. He got his 11th stolen base of the year last night.
Although the Rays are somewhat similar to the Red Sox in that they have 3 lefties in the bullpen to go along with 4 right-handed pitchers, so that makes it a little easier if you have to play matchup hitter for hitter late in the ball game.
Goldie off with a pitch. The throw from Molina is in time. Goldschmidt thrown out. And Chavez strikes out. So quickly 2 down here in the first.
Second baseman, number 2.
One hop throw. Nice play by Escobar to get above that ball so his glove is moving down as he made the catch. Gets the tag down there quickly enough. In the estimation of second base umpire Dan Bellino. That's about as close as it can get, but it looked like Escobar might have gotten the tag on that front foot just before he made contact with the base.
Aaron Hill popped him up. First pitch. Shallow left center. Meyer sprinting in now. He'll catch it behind Escobar, and that's the inning. So a chance for the Diamondbacks. They get one. They make it a 3-1 game through one. Paul Goldschmidt. And Jose Molina, the catcher, will lead it off for Tampa Bay here in the second against Randall Delgado. Molina, Archer, and Zobrist 8, 9, and 1. J-Mo 241 and 2 homers. Kind of like the J-Mo thing. That's right out of the Joe Madden playbook. Anytime you hear him speak about one of his players, he usually uses the nickname. You're just joining us. Rays got 3 in the first against Delgado. 3 doubles by Zobrist, Joyce, and Escobar. Doing all the damage. Up the middle, and there's another base hit for Tampa Bay. That's their 5th hit. Bob, at what point do you decide, and you certainly want to give Randall Delgado time to recover, I get that, but at what point do you decide he just doesn't have it tonight?
Well, I think it might be a little bit earlier rather than later, because the Diamondbacks coming off an off day on Monday, have an off day again tomorrow. The bullpen is pretty well rested, so I don't think Gibby can afford to go too long with the kind of contact we're seeing against Randall Delgado. And it's different if it's just ground balls rolling through the infield, bloopers falling in, but they're squaring him up pretty good tonight.
Chris Archer 0 for 3 career as a hitter. That's why pitchers bunt. Dodgers leading the Cardinals in St. Louis 7-2. Shelby Miller, the starting pitcher for the Cardinals, was hit right on the pitching elbow by a line drive shot right back to the mound. And he had to leave the game early. The Dodgers have pounced on St. Louis, so this might not be moving day in the National League West. 0-2.
I'll tell you, it's early, though. That Cardinals team, they're very resilient, especially in their own ballpark.
Archer strikes out. First strikeout tonight for Randall Delgado, with the first out of the second. Brings up Zobrist, who doubled and scored his last time. This was Shelby Miller earlier tonight on the mound against the Dodgers at Busch Stadium.
Line drive off the
Carl Crawford off his elbow and into shallow left.
Wow, that was solid contact on that right elbow.
So Miller immediately had to come out of the game. The Dodgers, with 11 hits right now, are leading at St. Louis 7-2. Zobrist doubled and scored his first time. What do you think? The Diamondbacks might get a break. The Dodgers have to go to St. Louis. Tough place to win. Face Shelby Miller. And quickly luck changes. Ben Zobrist, a switch hitter. He's about 50 points better from the left side. Two and one.
Cardinals 2 games behind the Pirates in that National League Central. Pirates have a 4-2 lead over the Marlins in the top half of the ninth. Looks like they're going to bring that one home. Boy, they can he'll afford to lose Shelby Miller for any amount of time.
Right to Goldie. Molina's off up, and there's nowhere to go. I mean, sometimes you eat the bar, and sometimes the bar eats you. Diamondbacks turn 2. They're down 3-1. tickets are here.
Hey fans, we invite you to play Kachinko by signing up at one of the 16 interactive kiosks right here at Chase Field during any Arizona Diamondbacks regular season home game.
Now, Fox Sports girls are out here today along with Cletus. There is Matt Williams talking with Evan Longoria down there at third. It's good to know that Matt has support in the stands.
Yeah, that can be a lonely place for a third base coach. You know, all it takes is 1 or 2 sends where a guy gets thrown out by a wide margin at home plate, and all of a sudden you have no idea what you're doing. Fans want to help you from the third base bleachers. I mean, you could have 100 good sends in a row, but you make that one mistake at the wrong time, and that's the only one the fans are going to remember.
There's got to be a story behind that. The guy's wearing a carpet on his back, and he supports Matt Williams with the luchador mask. I mean, what?
I don't know.
There's a lot going on there. Cody Ross, Will Nieves, and Didi Gregorius here in the Diamondback second. It's the Matt Libre. Look at his T-shirt. Matt Libre.
There you go.
We have the Kubel Libres, and now we have the Matt Libre, who apparently is kind of a lone wolf. He works on his own. The Kubel Libres work as a group.
Sounds like a job for our crack Fox Sports Arizona investigative staff.
Oh, the I-team.
Yeah,
let's get them on that. 1-0 to Cody, who, as we saw yesterday, fouled one off his calf just before he hit the home run, and that's all protected there. You see that shin guard on front. Got the booty.
Pretty good chance Cody Ross went to sleep last night with an ice bag on that left calf.
Ooh. That one is rolled to Ben Zobrist at second. And that's an easy out, number 1 for Tampa Bay here in the second. Zobrist all over the place. He started the game in left field last night. He's starting at second base tonight. Well, before every Diamondbacks game, you can safely say this. I don't know what's going to happen, but Will Nieves is going to get 2 hits. In his last 9 games, all starts, Will has 6 multi-hit games. And he's hitting .366 on the year. 2 for 4 last night with a pair of singles. Do you think if Cletus snuck in behind home plate, how many pitches do you think it would take to notice?
I'm pretty sure Tim Welke would have some issues seeing over Cletus. He can get there over the shoulder of Jose Molina. He'd have to stand on a ladder to look over Cletus.
High chopper to second. Zobrist again. Hey fans, FoxSportsArizona.com is all your online local sports coverage that you just can't find anywhere else, like Jack Magruder's game stories. There's Jack right next to us in the press box here. He'll have post-game analysis and reaction tonight. The mysterious case of Darnell Dockett's pet tiger cub. That's become kind of a thing. And you'll hear from the folks that help save hockey here in the Valley, the new Coyotes owners. All that more at FoxSportsArizona.com. Nieves grounds out. Here's Didi.
Well, I, for one, am very happy about that. I'd love to go watch the Coyotes play. That's a great venue, fun team to watch.
It is a beautiful facility. We made it to a number of Coyotes games. You know who was always at the Coyotes games is Adam Eaton. He's a huge hockey guy. Oh, yeah, they're there all the time. Adam is a big hockey fan. They did a great job with the area around the arena, too. Oftentimes, you build those facilities off a highway somewhere, and there's kind of a parking lot there, and there's not much, but there's a lot around that arena. It's a nice setup. There's the strike, 2-1. Now Cletus is out there for a conversation. I don't imagine Cletus would be very engaging.
This is not good.
On the mound, and now Molina sees something he doesn't like, and he's signaling for Joe Madden. And the trainer is right behind. That's interesting, Bob. There was nothing from Archer. It came from Molina, who clearly saw something he didn't like.
When you're used to watching a guy's every delivery, you become very accustomed to what it's supposed to look like, and any variation becomes pretty obvious. A little hop there by Archer at the end. I mean, he's been very animated out there on the mound all night, but apparently something that Jose Molina did not like, called out his manager and trainer to take a look at the young pitcher.
Chris Archer, 6'3", 200, 24 years old. He's got his 25th birthday coming up next month, and he's campaigning to stay in the game, it appears, certainly. His July was sensational. 2 shutouts, one against the Astros July 14th. Then he became the first pitcher in Rays history to throw a shutout against the Yankees. He beat the Yankees 1-0 in the Bronx. And it was 2 starts ago. He threw a 2-hitter. He's not happy about this, that's for sure. And they are going to make a move right here. So Archer has thrown only 30 pitches, and his night will end. Pitching change at Chase Field. Diamondbacks trail the Rays 3-1. We'll take a break. Back right after this. As you can see, cold here, so he's starting, in fact, from behind the mound is the left-hander, Alex Torres, who so far this year has thrown 34 to third innings and given up only 1 run. 12 of his 21 appearances this year have been longer than 1 inning, so he's what sort of fills the role of setup guy back there, at least for the time being. Or I should say long man, pardon me.
Unfortunate to see anybody go out with an injury. Chris Archer was acquired by the Rays from the Chicago Cubs in the trade to send Matt Garza to the Cubs, along with Fernando Perez, a minor league outfielder, Zach Rosscup, a minor league left-handed pitcher. They got not only Archer, but Brandon Guyer, kind of what you would call a 4A guy. Nice safety net in the outfield. Robinson Chirinos, a catcher who can play pretty much anywhere on the field. Sam Fuld, who we saw in the ball game last night. And the possible key to the trade is Hak Ju Lee, the shortstop. A lot of people think this guy is going to be really good at the major league level. A lot of speed, good bat, plays tremendous defense at shortstop, but pretty good trade for the Rays.
Now, how does this change the game for the Diamondbacks here, Bob? Because you spent all day looking at video, you're watching video of Archer, you're looking at scouting reports and whatnot, and now he's gone after 1 2/3. In fact, look at Alan Trammell right there.
You try to catch up as quickly as possible. I'm sure the coaching staff has all seen video and looked at the advance report on Torres, but the players obviously were prepared to face Chris Archer for 2 or 3 or 4 at-bats in this ball game tonight. And not only that, but Gibby set his lineup with the idea of facing a right-handed starting pitcher. He's got 3 left-handed bats in the lineup tonight, and obviously that advantage would have to go to the left-handed pitcher on the mound.
So while Torres continues his warm-ups, let's check in with Brad in the Fox Sports 1 Fan Express in
it's
town.
on assignment right now. I'm actually hanging out with the Fox Sports girls, our Fox Sports Arizona girls, Danielle and Mallory. And You're part of Fox Sports 1 Fan Express, making your way across the country, which culminates August 17th in Boston as the new network launches. First of all, you got a chance to throw the first pitch. How nerve-wracking was that?
Oh my gosh, when I found out that I was going to be the one to throw it, I was so nervous, but I did a couple practice ones, and once I got out there, I mean, standing next to Cletus, you know, he gave me kind of a little bit of confidence, and it was awesome. I'm so happy I got a chance to do it.
The bus ride is going to take you 3,800 miles. You're going to get on the bus tonight, go to San Antonio. What are you expecting out of this journey?
Well, we actually go to San Antonio tomorrow, so that's going to be a 14-hour ride. But along the way, we're going to be meeting fans, interacting with them, and going to different ballparks. So we're just really excited about it, and, you know, we're excited about the launch on August 17th. So.
Yeah, and again, the website is foxsports.com/road to launch. And Mallory, how do you prepare for a road trip with some of your friends from San Diego and LA?
Well, since they started it off for us, we definitely go to them about what to pack and what we need. But we just have a lot of team gear because we're going to be going to a Rangers game and a few other games throughout our trip, a Cardinals game. So we've got a lot of team gear so we can rep our state. And other than that, we're just going to have a lot of fun, take a lot of pictures, and support Fox Sports 1 as it launches.
And Asha, you were on the bus the last couple of days. What has it been like? It's got to be a lot of fun, but Cletus has to be, I mean, tough to live with.
You know what? No, he sleeps like a baby. You'd be surprised. You know what? The bus ride, we started yesterday with the West girls. The San Diego girls came down, and they hopped on the bus with us from Anaheim. And it wasn't, the drive here wasn't bad. It was 3 hours. It was quick. We were really excited to see the girls. So it hasn't been bad.
Great. It launches on August 17th. Have a great journey. We're going to go to break. Here's the D-backs trail the Rays by the score of 3-1. Back in a bit.
Your local Valley Kia retailer. Visit phxkia.com. By Sony Pictures Elysium from the director of District 9 in theaters August 9th. And by Jack in the Box. Go big at a participating Jack in the Box with Jack's really big chicken sandwich combos for only $3.99 plus tax. Back with the third inning here at Chase Field. Matt Joyce, Evan Longoria, Will Myers against Randall Delgado, 2, 3, and 4. With the Diamondbacks trailing 3-1. Joyce, an RBI double his first time up. And that double certainly welcome news for Matt Joyce, who since June the 1st is batting just .214. Over 50 pitches for Randall as we open the third. Interesting that both Randall Delgado and Zeke Sproul, two of the key pieces of the Martin Prado, Justin Upton deal, that's a foul ball, are up now and pitching with the big league club. Quickly how quickly the Diamondbacks have been able to see dividends from that deal. We know about Prado. Delgado's picked up the rotation when they've needed it. Zeke Sproul getting a long look. Look out, Randall, base hit up the middle. Joyce is 2 for 2. Another hard hit ball against Randall Delgado.
Randall always has a tendency to fall off to that first base side of the mound. Just kind of stuck his glove out there in self-defense. Almost had a play on that ball. Just kind of covered his head, stuck his glove out to the left. Fortunately, doesn't hit him. Gets through into center field, however, for a leadoff base hit.
Brings up Evan Longoria. Reached on a fielder's choice and scored in the first. Evan Longoria has been putting up big strikeout totals lately. Since July 2nd, he's hit under 190. And he struck out 42 times in his last 29 games. Delgado jumps ahead 0-2. 6 hits for the Rays, 2 for the Diamondbacks. He did not go, says Mike Everett at first.
We'll take a look and let you umpire at home. Very close, but it looked to me like Longoria was able to check his swing in time.
Right field, Cody Ross drifting near the line. Matt Joyce will tag and head for second. And the throw is in time. They got him. Let's make that our Chaz Roberts air conditioning cool play of the game, Cody Ross.
Well, it's a nice job not to assume anything. I mean, a runner's right there at first base in front of you. It's not an extraordinarily long throw from where Cody Ross was to try to get Joyce at second base, but so many times you'll see the outfielder go over there and make the catch and assume that guy's not going to try to advance. Cody didn't assume anything that time. Catch it and get rid of it quickly, right on the money.
And Joyce runs into an out at second base, 2 down, 0-1 to Will Myers, who singled and scored his last time. Will Myers playing center field tonight. Desmond Jennings is out with a finger injury. He's on the DL. And Myers has played only 2 innings in center field as a big leaguer. That was here last night. Late defensive switch. He came up as a catcher. When you come up as a catcher, you find yourself playing center field in the big leagues.
Who's he think he is? Craig Biggio? He did play 87 games in center field between AA and AAA last year. But you play for a Joe Madden team, the more gloves you carry, the better. That outfield assist by Cody Ross, the 28th of the season for the Diamondbacks outfield. That's first in the National League.
Maybe just playing right field, some of Gerardo Parra's want rubbed off. 2-2. Bring him up, sit him down. Second strikeout for Randall Delgado. The defensive highlight from Cody Ross. Wreck-It Ross. Big homer last night. Big defensive play tonight. Bottom 3 coming up. Fox Sports Arizona are teaming up to select the next D-backs legend to be honored in the Legends Entertainment District here in downtown Phoenix. And fans, you can vote right now at foxsportsarizona.com/D-backs-legend for either Bob Brenly, Steve Finley, Matt Williams, or Kurt Schilling. And then tune into the pregame show on August 31st for the unveiling of the newest 42-foot super graphic across from Chase Field. One of these four men will have that 42-foot high super graphic of their likeness across from the ballpark. And Bob Brenly, my friend, that could be you. 42 feet of you.
Am I allowed to campaign?
For someone else? No, because that's what you do. So just to help out with the campaign, our crew here thought we should, it's all about educating the voter. 3 things you need to know about Bob Brenly.
Hey.
Ohio U Hall of Fame in '88. Worked as a sub in the offseason.
Yeah.
Kids throwing erasers at you and stuff. And you once caught a 42-inch muskie.
Yeah, that was actually set up by Kurt Gibson. We were in Detroit on a road trip, and Gibby had a guide that was a good buddy of his. We had an off day in Detroit. He set it up for us to go muskie fishing, and we caught that fish in the first 15 minutes we were on the water. Spent the next 6 hours looking for number 2.
Trying to catch another one?
Yeah.
So you talk to Gibby about hunting and fishing. He can tell he'll tell stories about flying in and on private lakes and dropping down out of helicopters to fish a guy's pond out and then sneak out through a fence and all kinds of stuff. They probably just blew his cover, but so a leadoff walk to Delgado, the pitcher, to open the third. Lake Powell. How's the fishing there?
Never tried it. I'm sure it's very good if you know where you're going.
That's
big lake.
Don't get lost out there. Here's Adam Eaton, who singled and scored his first time up.
Good idea. Still looking for base runners here. Set it up for those guys in the middle that possibly have a chance to bang one out of here. You see Willie Bloomquist taking over for Kurt Gibson while Gibby and Wade Miley talk hunting and fishing over there.
Gibby is at his lucky end of the dugout. This is the dugout that he switches to occasionally when he's looking for an offensive rally, although he continues to deny that. But the pictures would tell you otherwise. 0-1 to Adam Eaton. Delgado aboard at first. There's the strike, 0-2.
That's something Tony La Russa used to do in St. Louis all the time. He would have a couple of his coaches standing nearby. He'd have a player in the middle of the dugout. He might have a trainer at the far end of the dugout. And they were all giving signs at the same time. And the players on the field for the Cardinals obviously knew who the key was, who the guy was they needed to look at. But if you were looking across from the other dugout, you had no idea who was giving the signs over there.
I had one manager tell me about a system he used that's involved the trainer and a towel, and that was the sign. The placement of the towel from the trainer was the key. So there's a whole lot of things that could be going on down there.
You can make those signs as complicated or as simple as you need to, depending on how good your players are at picking them up.
Adam Eaton, second straight appearance in the leadoff spot for Kurt Gibson. On base twice last night. He was hit by a pitch, singled, and scored a run. Trying to develop that presence at the top of the lineup for the Sedona Red here. Chases that one. There's the strikeout. Second strikeout for Torres. Since we were speaking about the Legends District here in downtown Phoenix, leads nicely into our AT&T Twitter poll question. Now, who should be the next D-back legend retired in the district? Either Brenly, Finley, Williams, or Schilling. Tweet your vote to @Fox Sports Arizona. Now, I usually like to get your take on this before we let the fans vote. But I have a feeling I know what you're going to say.
It's all about the players. Ought to be a 3-way tie.
Martin Prado walked his first time. Tampa Bay Rays telling us that Chris Archer had to leave the game with right forearm tightness. So he is out of the game, the Tampa Bay starter.
You'd like to think with Archer out of the game, your chances improve of breaking through against this Tampa Bay bullpen. But Torres on the mound right now since June 29th. Total of 14 innings pitched, has not allowed a run. Hitters are hitting under 100 against him. He's been really good for Joe Madden.
He's behind 2-0 to Martin Prado. Prado hitting almost 350 since the All-Star break with 10 RBIs. High strike, 2-1. See Martin shaking his head a bit there. Driven to left. Johnson looking up, and that ball is gone. Martin Prado ties it up with his 10th home run. It's a Fulton home run, another $150 to Central Arizona Mountain Rescue, and the Diamondbacks here, Bob, have rescued the ball game. We're all tied up.
Absolutely. That's why it was so important for Randall Delgado to right himself and put some zeros on the board. Fastball up and out over the plate, a backspin line drive right over that 376 mark. We've got a new ball game.
Here's Goldie.
Diamondbacks registered their 30th comeback victory of the season last night. The Rays had a 1-0 lead early. Diamondbacks came back to win that one. Looking for number 31 here tonight.
Goldie, an RBI single, is the first time up, so it's a whole new ball game for Randall Delgado, whose leadoff walk started off this inning and ended up costing Tampa Bay. He scored the D-backs' second run. And now 0-2 to Paul Goldschmidt.
Four of the last 5 unintentional walks to D-backs hitters have come around to score. Martin Prado walked back in the bottom half of the first inning. He erased on the double play, strike him out, throw him out. Or rather, Goldschmidt was erased on the strike him out, throw him out. Prado left at third base.
He rings up Goldie. That's 3 strikeouts now for Torres. That was the first home run allowed in his career by Torres.
Hey fans, anytime the D-backs score 6 runs or more, Taco Bell is giving away 3 free tacos with the purchase of a large drink between 4 and 6 the following day at participating locations.
Eric Chavez, who struck out against Chris Archer his first time, he's 0 for 1. Martin Prado, his 10th home run. We're tied up here in the third. Rays got 3 in the first on 3 doubles against Randall Delgado, who has given up only 2 hits, both singles since then. Well, you knew that guy was going to hit. The track record was just too well established.
Wait, if we would go back and look at some video from the month of April and compare it to video of Martin Prado right now, he's not even the same hitter.
Really?
His feet were moving, his body was moving, he had a lot of things going on in the box. It seemed like he was constantly trying to push the ball to the right side of the field. Now he's just standing in there well balanced, letting the ball get deep as Chavez dunks one into right field for a base hit.
You did get the sense that he was, and I said this before, it still seemed like he was still auditioning for the job. Like he wanted to show that he wasn't Upton, but he could win games for you in other ways.
I think he can win games for you by hitting home runs too. We like that part of it.
Aaron Hill flying out his first time up. Aaron back in the 5 spot in the lineup for Kirk Gibson. Last night he singled, walked, and scored a run. Aaron Hill hitting better than 340 over his last 9 games. All starts. There's the Diamondback battery having a discussion in the dugout now that it's a whole new ball game for Randall. 0-1. find certain guys when you were catching needed to talk between innings in the dugout? I know some guys you don't want anybody talking to them. Don't talk to me. I'm the pitcher. But other guys, it seems that they seem to initiate those discussions.
Some guys need constant reassurance that everything's going to be okay and my stuff is good and I can get these guys out. That's the part of the job as a catcher where you're part psychologist. You got to constantly try to keep them positive and moving in the right direction. Other guys get down on themselves very quickly. I got nothing tonight. I don't know. I'll be taking a shower in a couple of minutes. No big deal. And, those are the guys you got to get on their rear ends a little bit. Give them a kick in the seat of the pants. Try to get them jump started, get them going.
Randall never seems to lose his composure. We've talked about that. It's often hard to tell if he's ahead or behind in a ball game. But he's been given a second life here by the Diamondbacks offense. Gibby's down that end of the dugout, and when he goes down there, they find some base hits. A lot of hits down there. It's full to Aaron Hill, 3-2. Cody Ross is on deck. He's always laughing about the fact that he's down there.
Well, Matty said down in Tampa Bay that he doesn't like it when Gibby goes to that end of the dugout. I mean, we talk about ball players being creatures of habit. So are coaches and managers, and you're used to looking to that one spot where the manager always is.
Chavez running on the pitch, and Aaron Hill lines it down the left field line. It bounces off the bullpen wall, and the Diamondbacks take the lead. 15th double for Aaron Hill. It's 4-3 Arizona. Stay down there. It's working.
Just coming down there to pay his respect to Eric Chavez for that base hit in front of the Aaron Hill double. Wow, a shock. Aaron Hill pulled the ball in the left field corner.
No, that never happens. And Chavez running on the pitch, scored easily. And watch Adam Eaton. Gibby comes down. Oh, there's A.J. Pollock. Go down there.
Beat it.
A walk to Delgado. Eaton struck out. Prado homered. Goldie struck out. Single by Chavez. Double by Aaron Hill. And it's a 4-3 Diamondback lead. And they have a runner in scoring position for Cody Ross, who grounded out his first time up. A.J. Pollock directing dugout traffic. Broken bat up the middle. Zobrist pounces on it. Low throw, but it's scooped up by Loney, and that's the inning. But the Diamondbacks take the lead. Aaron Hill's RBI double makes it a 4-3 ball game. But the big blow, Martin Prado, his 10th. It's 4-3 Diamondbacks.
leading the Rays by a score of 4-3. When you talk about this series, it's really a rivalry for the Penrod family. I'm joined by Greg Penrod, who's been a D-back fan for a long, long time. Tell us about this sign. There's a group of Penrods back in Florida that you got a little something going with.
Yes. There's 15 back in the Florida area, and then there's 13 here in Arizona.
And who are you with tonight?
It's my wife, Linda, Kendall, and Jensen.
Now, is there anything riding on this interleague rivalry right now?
Just giving each other grief over the phone and text.
Have you been had a chance to talk to the family members back there, and especially now that the D-backs are leading?
Yes. Yeah, we've been texting them, letting them know that we're winning.
You know, it's pretty cool. Both these teams came into existence at the very same time, and that's obviously when this rivalry got going. Tell me some of the more heated moments during this rivalry.
Well, we'll go out to their field, which is not near as good as our field.
Ouch.
Whoa.
And they always text us and just giving each other grief about it. So.
And Linda, your take on this. By the way, a marvelous sign.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's his job. He did it. So, yeah, there's just a lot of go back and forth between us and Tampa and who's going to win and who's winning any given game that we play.
And girls, we do have a world championship, so that's bragging rights as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. What up?
All right, so right now, this group of Arizona Penrods having the last laugh. Guys, we'll send it back to you. A great sign and a great rivalry.
And remember, long-distance rates may apply. I actually kind of like the Trop with the qualifier for what it is. And we were just there last week, Gonzo and I. And again, for what it is, it's a clean, comfortable place to watch a baseball game. Now, the argument is they built it on the wrong side of the water, and that's the issue. But if you have to go there, it's not a bad place to watch a game from.
Well, the real issue is because of lagging fan attendance and low revenues, they don't figure to be moving anytime soon.
Leadoff walk to James Loney. Well, they have a lease there with the city of St. Petersburg through 2027, I believe. So they're locked in there for a while.
Shortstop, Yunel Escobar.
That is the first walk issued by Randall Delgado. Loney's aboard. Here's Yunel Escobar. 2-run double his first time up.
Yeah, they don't have any logos hanging up at the Trop like that.
James Loney does have 3 stolen bases this year. He's been caught one time. In his last start, Randall Delgado gave up 4 earned runs, but he still got the win. In fact, it was the first time all season Delgado had given up more than 3 earned in any start. And so he's had another game here where he's not totally sharp and on top of his game, but let's see if he can hold on and get a win here. Didi Gregorius! Diamondback defense. There's 1 D in defense. There's 2 in Didi.
Well, you're going to see this play a lot over the next 24 to 48 hours. This is one of the better double plays I have ever seen. The diving stop, the off-balance, underhanded throw to Aaron Hill. Ball was hit so hard, Hill still had time to relay onto first base to complete the double play.
Boy, he is an athletic sensation at shortstop. Kelly Johnson flying out his first time up. See Didi almost behind the second base bag with the lefty Johnson up there. That's driven to left. Martin Prado at the track, at the wall, and it's gone. Kelly Johnson, his 16th home run, has tied it up. It's 4-4. So the play that Didi Gregorius and Aaron Hill made out there to turn that double play looming large in what is now a tie game.
Yeah, instead of a lead-changing home run, it's just a tying home run to left field. Kelly Johnson going to the opposite field about 3 rows up.
Second on the team in home runs behind Longoria now with 16. Here's Jose Molina.
Well, Johnson playing left field tonight, but he has played second base beside Yunel Escobar in the middle of this Tampa infield, and it would be the third different team that they've made up a double play combination together. Atlanta, Toronto, and now in Tampa.
Johnson, 800 games in the big leagues as a second baseman. That's how Diamondback fans, of course, remember him. But he came up as a left fielder with the Braves in 05. He's in left field tonight. He has started 45 games in left field for the Rays this year. His first starts in the outfield since that rookie season with Atlanta. 2-2 on Jose Molina. It's full. Pitcher spot is due up next. Luke Scott is in the on-deck circle for Tampa Bay. There's the strikeout. Third of the game for Randall Delgado, but Kelly Johnson's 16th home run has made this a 4-4 ball game.
It's really three different plays. That diving stop is one great play. The submarine throw off balance, falling backwards, that's a great play number two. And then Aaron Hill's ability to get that ball quickly to first base in time to get Escobar. Really three good plays in one.
Ram Trucks, tools of the trade. President and CEO Derek Hall on his feet. Gonzo down there with the Derek watching the game.
Leading off for the D-backs.
And it'll be Will Nieves, Didi Gregorius, and Randall Delgado, the pitcher spot up here in the fourth, and what is now a 4-4 ball game after Kelly Johnson's home run in the top of the inning. So here's Will Nieves. Grounded out his first time, 0 for 1. He's hit safely in 9 of his last 10, batting better than .380 over that span. And they were ready to hit for Alex Torres in the previous inning. Luke Scott was out there on deck with the pitcher spot due up next, but since Molina struck out, Torres gets to go back out there for the fourth.
A rough outing for Torres. He's given up only 1 run in his first 21 outings this season, gave up 3 in that third.
He's a left-hander, but righties this year are hitting only .068 against him. 7 hits for the Rays, 5 for the Diamondbacks. Misses there, it's 1-1.
Keep an eye on that Dodger game. They lead the Cardinals 9-4 in the top of the 7th. And anytime you talk about the Dodgers, obviously you go to Gonzalez and Ramirez and Puig, so forth and so on. Not tonight.
Oh, not another one of these Schumacher nights.
Skip Schumacher, Tim Federovich.
How did I know it?
And D. Gordon, a combined 7 for 12 with 4 runs driven in, 4 runs scored. D. Gordon filling in for Hanley Ramirez, who missed his 3rd game in a row with a injured shoulder.
A foul ball that almost hit Tom Candiotti in the radio booth right next to us. Here's the 1-2. Nieves strikes out. That's 4 strikeouts now for Alex Torres. 1 away to open the 4th.
Yeah, partner, we're going to take another look at that diving stop. Just the first part of the play by Didi. Watch his right hand. May not seem like much, but as he dives, that right hand slides across the infield dirt. He immediately goes in his glove. I guarantee you he had a palm full of dirt right there when he picked that ball up. That just adds to how great that play is. See his hand sliding through the dirt? Immediately goes in the glove. You don't always get a good grip, but he made a perfect throw to Aaron Hill.
And now he's in there. He was in there against the right-hander Archer, but now it's the lefty Torres for Didi, who struck out looking his first time. Well, it's a difficult matchup, and it's become a looming question with Didi Gregorius, Bob. Nearly a 300 hitter against right-hand pitching. The issue, or part of it in terms of Didi being an everyday player in the shortstop here, is the ability to hit lefties. So he's almost 300 against righties, but barely 200 versus lefties.
And that's not a position. Shortstop and second base for me are not positions where I would ever like to play a platoon. I like those guys to work together on a regular basis so they know each other's rhythm. They know where to feed each other on the double play possibilities. You never like to get caught in a platoon system in the middle infield.
At what point, when a guy struggles against left-handers or right-handers, vice versa, does it become a concern where you're thinking about maybe he can't be the everyday shortstop?
Well, ideally, you get enough offense from other positions that you just live with the struggles against a left-handed pitcher. I mean, Didi's defense is that good, and ideally, if some of the other guys in the lineup continue to pick it up offensively, you'll be able to continue to run him out there regardless, righty-lefty. Of course, the perfect solution is he learns how to hit lefties a little better.
And that's part of the process. He's only 23, so that's something that can and will improve. Looks at a ball there, and it's 3-2.
I mean, as we just saw in that last inning, his defense will keep runs off the board, which is the equivalent of driving in runs. So you have to take it all into consideration. Look at the big picture. Look at the players you have available to play for Didi against left-handers, and put it all in that computer and see what you kick out.
Drives that one right. At Joyce has it. And that's the second out. Well struck ball by Gregorius right there.
Now, given his struggles against left-handed pitching this year, I'd have to say that's a good out. You know, he battled, he laid off some tough pitches. He finally got a pitch in the strike zone and hit it hard. Unfortunately, hit it right at Joyce.
And those are the kind of at-bats you're looking for when you're talking about developing a young guy like this?
Oh, yeah. If you continue to make solid contact like that, they'll start to drop in. They're going to find their holes.
Randall Delgado walked and scored his first time up. Rays coming to Chase Field tonight with the 3rd best record in the American League behind Boston and Detroit. That one is lined to right. Joyce one more time. A couple of well hit balls, but 2 outs for the Diamondbacks. We are through 4. It's a 4-4 ball game.
I did in the bullpen before the game. I actually got it to the plate that time, though, but I don't know.
We're watching here on MLB Network, and when you saw it up there on their blooper reel, what would you say?
I was really hoping that it didn't get nobody saw it, because I asked Charlie last night. He said he didn't see it, so I was like, all right, nobody laughed at me.
Well, we all saw it. Last night's winner, Wade Miley, providing our Geico quote of the game, and it was an interesting pitch between innings as Wade Miley was warming up, and it just got away from him. It was interesting. He was walking through the middle of the clubhouse, and as I mentioned, MLB TV was on, and he shouted out, "Oh, no, they got that." He was hoping no one saw that, but hey, he got the win last night, so we'll give him a couple of those if he racks up the wins like he's been doing over his last 6 or 7 starts.
He sure will, Brad. He has been outstanding. Former Diamondback great Ryan Roberts steps in now. He'll hit for the pitcher to lead off the 5th. 4-4 ball game. 7 hits for the Rays, 5 for the Diamondbacks. Roberts at .245. He had a tough night last night, 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. Roberts is 2 for 10 since his recall from AAA Durham last week.
Hey, you mentioned the 4 punch-outs in the game for Roberts last night. The first 3 came against Wade Miley, which makes him 0 for 6 lifetime with 6 strikeouts against the D-backs left-hander.
Ouch, big.
Ouch.
Hard to second. Aaron Hill scoops that one up. And this was last night. Ryan Roberts after the tough night. I've had 6 at-bats, 6 strikeouts. Ownage.
You wouldn't want to read my lips if I'd struck out 6 times in a row against one guy.
Top of the order, Ben Zobrist. He has doubled and scored and hit into a double play. Zobrist having a big second half, hitting almost .370 since the All-Star break. Popped him up, first pitch swinging, right field. Ross is there. 2 down. Brings up Matt Joyce, who so far is 2 for 2. Kyle Farnsworth apparently will take over in the bottom of the 5th for Tampa Bay. Joyce RBI double in the first, singled in the third. Funny, Matt Joyce has really been scuffling the last 2 months, but he's had a good night so far. In fact, since June the 1st, hitting just .214. And he finds the gap here. That one gets down in left center. And make it 3 for 3 for Matt Joyce. 2-out base runner for the Rays. That's their 8th hit.
Third baseman, Evan Longoria.
Randall Delgado approaching 90 pitches. Josh Coleminter limbering up. Glenn Sherlock looking on in the Diamondback bullpen. Longoria reached on a fielder's choice and scored in the first. He flat out his last time up. Longoria been battling a foot injury this summer, plantar fasciitis in the right foot, and has really slowed down his game. Back on May 22nd, his batting average for the season was .335, but since then he's hit less than .220, and the average has dropped by nearly 70 points.
Well, when you've got a bad right foot and you're a right-handed hitter, that's going to affect your swing.
Good looking swing there, but Adam Eaton is diving and sliding, and he's got it. Knuckled on Eaton, but he made the catch. We are headed to the bottom of the 5th. CenturyLink, your link to what's next. Coming up, Martin Prado, who hit his 10th home run his last at bat. at the Ram Trucks Pool. Great place to watch a game. So long homestand here. Come out and join us at Chase Field, dbacks.com/tickets, and get your tickets to see the Diamondbacks. Got the Mets coming in, the Baltimore Orioles. Buck Showalter will be back in town. A lot going on here on this long homestand. New pitcher for the Tampa Bay Rays. We saw him a little bit last night. He worked a 9-pitch inning. This is the 15-year veteran Kyle Farnsworth, and this year he's been a little more hittable than usual, Bob. Opponents this season against Farnsworth batting almost 300.
He still gets that ball up there in a hurry. You mentioned that clean 6th inning in the ball game last night, including a strikeout of Will Nieves. It's a guy that for huge chunks of his career was a late inning reliever, occasionally tried as a closer, usually more valuable as a setup guy in the 6th, 7th, or 8th inning.
He'll face Adam Eaton, Martin Prado, and Paul Goldschmidt, the top of the order. 4-4 bottom 5. 8 hits for the Rays, 5 for the Diamondbacks. One of those hits, Adam Eaton. He singled and scored in the first. He struck out his last time up. Trying to bunt here for a base hit, but he pops it up.
A little slip there by Farnsworth on his delivery. I don't know if you could notice at home. Look at the difference in the size of his arms. Yeah, some of it may have to do with the ink he's got on the inside of his right forearm, but his right arm looks about twice as big as his left arm.
A little issue here, and so Tim Welke goes out to have a conversation. I think he wants him to take a look at the mound.
Yeah, maybe get the grounds crew out there to repair that hole in the front of the mound. You can see, and we talked about this before, it's not so much the hole in front of the rubber, it's the landing hole out front. And you get some guys that have a shorter stride or a longer stride, and you come into the ball game and you land on the edge or on the short side of that hole. That time you can see Farnsworth slid right down the slope of the mound into the hole, so he wants him to patch it up a little bit.
He threw all his warm-up pitches, didn't notice it, but on the first pitch of the game, suddenly it's an issue.
Well, I think when there's a batter in the box with a chunk of wood in his hand that's trying to hit the ball, he probably overextended just a little bit more than he did during his warm-up tosses. Grant Trenbeth and his crew going to hustle out there and patch that hole in front of the mound.
His pants aren't helping either. Now he's pulling them up. Look how long those things are. They're underneath his shoe. Can we get a tailor out there as well?
Got that little flared look there, little bell bottoms.
Oh no! Don't give anybody any ideas. We don't need that.
Well, that's actually caused some organizations to mandate that all their minor league players wear their pants up. A couple of guys in the low minors pulled the pants down like Farnsworth and actually tucked them underneath and poked the back cleat through the pants to hold them down.
Does it look cool?
It looks cool, yeah. They see big leaguers doing it, and so they did it at the minor league level, and obviously with a much smaller budget to work with at the minor league level, they didn't like the fact that all the pants were being ruined, so they just mandated that everybody had to wear their pants up knee level.
And of course, as you said, back in the day, they used to measure, right?
Yeah, teams had different policies. When I was with the Giants, we had to show 4 inches of your stirrup sock. So if you wore your stirrups right down on your ankles, you could get your pants down there just past your calf and still show 4 inches of black. But back in those days, we were just glad to have a uniform.
And so while the maintenance continues here, let's take this time to remind you that you can join us for Throwback Night on Saturday, August 31st. The D-backs will wear the throwback black, purple, and teal jerseys. That's a 5-10 game against the Giants. And then after the final out, we will welcome back former D-back greats, Matt Williams, Steve Finley, Luis Gonzalez, and more of your favorites for the 2nd annual Alumni Exhibition Game. It's in partnership with Denny's and Sanderson Ford, and you can get more information online at dbacks.com/alumni. I always do like to take this time to check in on the negotiations for your involvements. Are there any news?
They're progressing. Let's just put it that way. We're getting closer to figuring out exactly what it is I'm going to do. We know what Gonzo's going to do. He's going to try to hit a home run in a pool.
I guarantee you who's going to hit in that game, and it's Matty, because earlier today, this was very early this afternoon, long before Chase Field opened, look who's taking some BP in preparation for the alumni game.
Boy, does that setup look familiar? I'm telling you. It's exactly the way he hit when he was a player for the D-backs. Yeah, maybe a few more line drives.
So again, fans, that is There, he ripped that one. Go. Saturday, August 31st. And the Diamondbacks will be wearing the old purple and teal jerseys for the game. So it'll be a great night to be out here. So join us at Chase Field. You get more information at dbacks.com/alumni. Time to check in with the AT&T Twitter poll. Now, this is just the update. Well, we'll check back in. But how about this? Whoa. This is a true 4-horse race right here.
Telling you.
And you are out front, my friend.
Well, I appreciate the support, but like I said before, it's all about the players. I was very fortunate to have those 3 guys on that 0-1 team. I'll tell you what, Steve Finley, as good a center fielder as there was in the game at that particular time of his career. Matt Williams was the anchor not only on the field, but in the clubhouse, in the dugout. And you know, what can you say about Kurt Schilling? Yeah, I mean, he was as good as there was in the game.
Well, there's going to be 42 feet worth of one of these guys out here at the Legends Entertainment District. And that's the Gonzo one. That's what it's going to look like. Now, do you get to pick the picture if you win? That's a good question.
Probably not, but I got to tell you, I did see previews of the 4 pictures that are possibilities to put up on the wall over there.
Now, 4 of just you or 4
No,
of Canada?
All, you know, one of each of us. And I like mine.
What's yours?
Holding the trophy.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that'll look good at 42 feet high across the ballpark.
It will.
That's not bad. Now you'll have to change your route to the ballpark to make sure you drive by your sign should you win. So we'll see if this has been attended to Farnsworth's satisfaction, and they will send the ground crew away. Nice job there by the Chase Field crew. We're set to go again with an 0-1 count to Adam Eaton to lead off the 5th. A chance to play some Earth, Wind, and Fire here at the ballpark. That's always good. Yeah. Games at Tampa Bay have been a bit of a mess. We lost the power at the Trop. That was, of course, Gonzo's fault. And now we had some gardening to do here. Chase Field in this series. So it's an 0-1 count to Adam Eaton. 4-4 bottom 5.
The reason I so quickly knew what happened there with Farnsworth is obviously with Randy Johnson. I mean, you know, he was stepping out there in the infield grass.
Oh! Off the glove of Zobrist and into right. Eaton's aboard.
I mean, Randy had about as long a stride as you can possibly imagine for a guy 6'10", and depending on the opposing pitcher, the holds didn't always line up exactly the way pitchers would like. So we had a lot of delays when Randy was on the mound so that the opposing pitcher could reconfigure that hole out in front for his liking.
Well, he may want him to dig up a new one and then resurface it after that. Zobrist, who started in left field last night. Would have been a tough play, but it's off the glove. That's ruled a base hit for Adam Eaton. He's 2 for 3. And the Diamondbacks have the leadoff man on here in the 5th for Martin Prado, who homered his last time up.
You asked me earlier in the first inning about maybe getting a runner going, trailing in the ball game. Well, now in a tie game, all bets are off. Adam Eaton looking to get a jump, trying to find something in Kyle Farnsworth's delivery that will allow him to get a jump and possibly steal a base.
Do you believe in the idea that speed creates pressure for the opposition?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it changes everything. It changes the pitchers that a catcher will call because he wants to give himself the best opportunity to throw out a fast runner. So Martin Prado figures to get more fastballs in this at bat. Changes the way the defense positions themselves on the infield. Obviously, you've got to move the first baseman over there to hold on that runner. The 2 middle infielders constantly looking out of the corner of their eye to see if Eaton is going to break for second base. This changes everything about the game.
We'll see how Kirk Gibson, standing on his lucky side of the dugout, wants to play this one here. 1-1 to Martin Prado. Eaton aboard at first. Also keep in mind you've got a hot hitter up there, including tonight his home run. Prado's now hit in 6 of his last 7 games. Eaton holds. That's one's in there for a strike. 1-2. And again, Tim Welke not thrilling Martin with his strike zone. Close.
For me, that's actually a pretty good take. I mean, unless Martin had his mind set to try to shoot that hole in the right side, that fastball out there at the knees on the outside corner is probably just going to be a double play ground ball.
Hard to left. Kelly Johnson at the wall. It's over his head, and Adam Eaton is on the run. He'll stop at third. Martin Prado, that's his 24th double. He's on base for the third time tonight.
His home run back in the third inning was a line drive variety blast to left. This double just didn't get up high enough to get over the fence, but he smoked it over the head of Kelly Johnson out there, putting D-backs at second and third for Paul Goldschmidt. Oh, nice swing, head right down the barrel of the bat. Got a little bit of backspin on that ball, hit right at the base of the fence, and as that ball's in the air on the way back into the relay, man, Matt Williams didn't want to take any chances this time.
You got Goldie, Chavez, and Hill coming up. Second and third, nobody out in the tie game. Here's Paul Goldschmidt. RBI single in the first, struck out looking his last time up. And Prado on base for the third time tonight. A walk, a homer, and a double. Now 188 multi-hit games, the most in the National League since 2010. To Yunel Escobar.
That's just a big old hang with him right there. Line drive, looked like it was ticketed for left field, but Escobar with a step and a dive to his right, able to snare that one. Good read by both base runners to freeze in their tracks on that line drive.
And with second and third in a tie game, Joe Madden is going to match up here. That's it for Kyle Farnsworth. Left-hander coming in. We'll take a break. Trucks.com pool. Look for specially marked packages of Pepsi 12-ounce cans for a chance to find the limited edition D-backs can. Pepsi, live for now. Pitching change here for the Rays. It's the left-hander Jake McGee. He's in here to face Eric Chavez with runners on second and third and one out in a tie ball game. The interesting thing here, Bob, is that he'll work to Chavez, and then Aaron Hill, the right-hander, is right behind him. And righties this year against the lefty McGee, hitting only 132. So theoretically, he could work the rest of this inning.
Now batting, third baseman, Eric Chavez.
I mentioned they had 3 lefties and 4 righties in the bullpen. This is the second lefty that they burned through already in the ball game, and we're only in the 5th inning.
Chavez has struck out, singled, and scored his last time up. Pair of RBI doubles last night. Xavi hitting an even 300 since the All-Star break. That's inside, 1-0. Big RBI opportunity with Adam Eaton at third, Martin Prado at second. Chavez 10 RBIs in his last 14 games.
is willing to concede a run right here to try to avoid the crooked number inning, playing their infield back all the way around. Ground ball anywhere but directly back to the mound, and fly ball to medium depth outfield should be able to score Adam Eaton to third base.
How do you pitch to a guy like Chavez who can go the other way so well and yet turn on a pitch that's inside?
Well, I think given their defensive alignment, they're going to have to work him on the outer part of the plate. Center fielder Will Myers shaded several steps over toward the gap in left center.
They get the strike away there, 1-2.
Chavez has been good lately against lefties. 4 of his last 10 with a double and a triple, driven in 3.
Single by Eaton, double by Prado. Goldie lined out to short. And here's Chavez. And that one gets through. Diamondbacks take the lead. Eaton scores. Prado stops at third. RBI single for Eric Chavez. His 40th RBI of the year.
I have talked about this repeatedly. The advantage that a left-handed hitter has. Watch how long Chavez waits and then just slaps that ball through the left side of the infield. That ball was nearly in Jose Molina's mitt when he finally pulled the trigger and slapped that ball through the left side for an RBI hit.
Gibby's on the lucky side of the dugout, and it worked out. Each team now with 8 hits. Diamondbacks take a 5-4 lead, and Aaron Hill's up there with the runners in the corners and 1 away. Aaron RBI double his last time up. He's 1 for 2. And Aaron Hill has been red hot lately. .340 over his last 9 games, all starts. There it is, red hot. 3 hits in the inning, a run is in. Aaron Hill lifts that one to left. Johnson on the wall. Can't get it, it's at the wall. Prado will score. They'll stop Chavez at third at 6-4 Diamondbacks.
Oh my, just got it out toward the end of the bat just a little bit. Otherwise that ball is rattling around in the Diamondbacks bullpen. As it is, chases Kelly Johnson all the way back there to the notch in left field. He can't make the play and keep the line moving. Martin Prado scores. Chavez to third. Hill in at second.
And Bob Renly, that's 6 runs.
Hey! Tacos again tomorrow.
Back-to-back taco nights here at Chase Field. First base open. They will walk Cody Ross, and they'll work to Will Nieves. A pair of singles, a pair of doubles in this inning for the Diamondbacks. They've taken a 6-4 lead. They've now out-hit Tampa Bay 9-8. Is this all right here about avoiding a 3-run homer and working to Nieves instead of Ross?
Quite possibly, and it also sets up a potential double play. I think that's what Joe Madden is thinking more than anything else. Go ahead and load up the bases and then try to execute good pitches to Will Nieves and look for that double play ball.
So Cody's aboard, bases loaded, full of Diamondbacks with 1 out. Five of the 6 batters have reached base in this inning for Arizona. Chavez at third, Hill at second, Ross at first, and here's Will Nieves, who's 0 for 2.
2 for 4 in the ball game last night. His 2 singles came in his first 2 at bats of the ball game. So 0 for his last 2 yesterday, 0 for his first 2 today. That's about as long a slump as Will Nieves has had this year.
You're right. He has been hot. He's hit safely in 9 of his last 10 games, batting better than .380 over that span. Chance to break it open right here. See if there's any more runs down that end of the dugout.
Well, if he moves any further down, he's going to have to get a camera pass.
Chavez at third, Hill at second, Ross at first. Chased one there. It's 1-2. 98.
Not too many guys going to catch up to 98 up there above the letters. Big swing from Nieves. If he was able to make contact with that pitch, it would have gone a long way, but well tardy on the heater.
Another one at 98, fouled away. Eric Chavez at third, Aaron Hill at second, Cody Ross at first. Diamondbacks 1 in the first, 3 in the third, and so far 2 here in the fifth.
Haven't seen nearly as much of Jose Molina as we have his brother Yadier for the St. Louis Cardinals, but Yadier in a situation like this is looking to pick somebody off base. Try to help your pitcher out of a tough situation, whether it's at first base, third base, occasionally even at second base if that guy's taking too big of a secondary lead.
In the air to left. Kelly Johnson under it. Chavez at third. He will tag and he will score. 7-4 Diamondbacks.
Battling at bat that time by Will Nieves. Every pitch in that sequence 97 or better. No breaking balls, no off-speed deliveries from McGee. Just all hard stuff. Eventually, Nieves able to catch up to one and loft that fly ball to left to drive in a run.
Second 3-run inning of this ball game for the D-backs. 2 outs. Here's Didi. He struck out looking in the second and lined out to right his last time up. He's 0 for 2. And another at bat here against the left-hander for Gregorius. Two and 0. Pitcher spot is due up next. A.J. Pollock is in the on-deck circle. Didi ahead 3-0. And Randall Delgado, who after half an inning was down 3-0, in position here for the win.
Takes that 3-0 strike. Diamondbacks have only swung on 3-0 counts 15 times this year after leading MLB with 43 3-0 swings last year.
Center field, Will Myers drifting back in the corner, and Will Myers tracks it down in the gap. Didi's bid for extra bases is snuffed out by the rookie center fielder, but they get 3 in the inning. Eric Chavez. And then Aaron Hill. It's 7-4 Diamondbacks.
His son, the Coyotes, officially here to stay, joined by part of the ownership group, George Gosby, as well as Daryl Jones. And I'll start with you. It's been a long process. There were some pitfalls along the way. How satisfied are you that it finally got done?
Well, we worked hard on this deal for 6 months, and when that announcement came that we bought the team, I was ecstatic.
Daryl, you don't get involved with a project like this unless you have high hopes and aspirations. What are your plans and dreams for this franchise?
We just think there's a ton of potential for hockey in the Valley. You know, Anthony LeBlanc and I have been involved for about 4 years and brought George in recently and a great group of investors. And we think hockey's a sport that'll thrive here. And, you know, I think there's an incredibly passionate group of Coyotes fans to begin with. We're going to continue to build on that.
GM Don Maloney, your head coach Dave Tippett, and your captain Shane Doan, 3 incredible men, 3 incredible leaders. How nice is it to come into a situation like this knowing they are your leadership?
Well, I think as George has been saying, you know, hockey's in a lockbox primarily because we have some of the best people in hockey running it on the ice and off the ice. And that's a huge asset for us, and we're going to leverage it on the business side.
And George, I'll get back to you. In terms of what happens between now and when they drop the puck, you guys have to be out there aggressively marketing and bringing some free agents in to make this a viable product again.
Yeah, we went after the free agency market on the opening day of the free agency market. We worked with the NHL, and we got Mike Ribeiro, and we bumped up the player payrolls, and I think that's a strong message to the serious we are about creating a very competitive team on the ice and giving Don Maloney, our GM, the resources in order to build a really winning organization. But we got a lot of work to do on marketing, a stability campaign, a here-to-stay campaign, and trying to get a lot of those fans back that might have left disenfranchised with the NHL ownership.
You know, you're in good company. D-backs president and CEO certainly knows the pulse of this marketplace. Have you guys shared some ideas about how you can make Glendale a destination again for hockey fans?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, it's been a great resource and great friends of the Coyotes, and we want to continue working with them on a number of different initiatives and learn from their successes.
And Daryl, I'll cap it off with you. You know, the excitement of the fans, like you said, the core fans, but you've got to bring some new fans in, and obviously the dream, the hope is to one day have a Stanley Cup out there.
Absolutely, you know, and we think we can do it. You know, 2 seasons ago we made effectively the Final Four in hockey, Western Conference Finals. The core of the team is still there. We brought in Ribeiro, which is huge. Mike Smith has a long-term deal. You know, we think we have a core of a team that can be very competitive and can make a run to the Stanley Cup. And I think success on the ice will drive more fans.
Well, certainly hockey fans are thrilled that you and George and Anthony have kept hockey here, and I know that's the next part is billboards out there and season tickets, and best of luck to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
George, thanks again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Guys, back to you. Great to report that hockey is here to stay. This needs to be a 4-major team town, and it remains that way.
Well, they have great facility now, great new ownership in place. They have a tradition there, as they mentioned, Final Four a couple of years ago, and it should be all systems go for the Coyotes. Big help there in the double play for the new Diamondback pitcher, Josh Colmenter, his 33rd appearance of the year, all in relief. You see right there, he's worked to just over 61 innings and given up only 49 hits. In fact, he's got more strikeouts this year than hits allowed. And Didi is there behind the bag, spins and throws, and they can't corral it at first. And Yunel Escobar's aboard. Almost another highlight reel out there for Didi Gregorius.
Just had a little bit of trouble getting a handle on that ball after knocking it down. Just a slight delay trying to find a grip on the baseballs. Throws it in the dirt over there to Goldie, who can't come up with it. But once again, tremendous athleticism, tremendous range, strong throwing arm. All the tools are there for him to be one of the better defensive shortstops in the game for a long time.
And it was Yunel Escobar that hit the spectacular double play ball that Didi and Aaron Hill turned his last time up, and Escobar would have been talking to himself had he been thrown out there by Didi, but he's got a base hit. And there he goes. Thank you very much. They throw him out. Yunel Escobar caught stealing for the second time this year. And after the leadoff single by Myers, the Diamondbacks are out of the inning. Will Nieves throws him out. Diamondbacks lead it 7-4. Between the ages of 10 and 14. Then come out Sunday to Chase Field. Fox Sports Arizona, Sanderson Ford, Kidcaster auditions from 11:30 to 1:30 at the Sandlot before the D-backs and the Mets game. It'll be a big weekend here. You've got, of course, the Kidcaster audition Sunday. Saturday, Bob, that's the hot ticket. Saturday, we're expecting more than 40,000 here for Goldie Bobblehead Night. Wheeler and McCarthy. Always fun at Chase Field when there's a big crowd, and with the Goldie bobblehead, which is, by the way, is a must-have. You just have to get a Goldie bobblehead this year. It's going to be a big day here and a big weekend.
Absolutely. And talking about the Kidcaster on Sunday, Jordan Palacio set the bar pretty high last time.
Yeah, he has since hired an agent, and it's as you say, they're in negotiations.
Yeah, has representation now.
So Colmenter here, who came in to pitch the top of the sixth, will hit to lead off the bottom of the sixth inning. So it looks like Josh is going to go certainly more than one inning here. So Colementor, Eaton, Prado, 9-1-2 here in the Arizona 6th. It's a strange inning, Bob, for the Rays. They had 2 base hits there and nothing to show for it.
3 hitters, 2 base hits, nobody left on base, and no runs scored. That's hard to do.
So Colementor strikes out. Don't forget, be here Saturday, as we mentioned, August 10th. Get your Paul Goldschmidt bobblehead. It's courtesy of Audi. Everybody wants this bobblehead. Avoid the lines, fans, and guarantee your bobblehead. That's critical. All you have to do is get the Goldie bobblehead 4-pack of tickets. You'll get a ticket to Saturday's game. You won't have to wait in line. You will guarantee yourself a bobblehead, and you get your choice of tickets to 3 other games. You can pick the games. So this is a fantastic deal. And get on board. Log on to dbacks.com/4pack or call 602-462-4600 and get your Goldie bobblehead guaranteed. Don't wait. See the game on Saturday and see 3 other games of your choice. Here's a strike to Adam Eaton after Colementor strikes out. Our Goldie bobblehead, we did a nice sort of artsy looking shot of the Goldie bobbleheads prior to that, because our Goldie bobblehead, which took the tour on the last road trip, had a tough trip. It was a long, grueling trip, 3 games in 3 days. There was Tampa, there was Texas, there was Boston. Now this is what, of course, they should look like. You can see the Matt Williams face on the Goldie bobblehead, and then there's the actual Bobby head. This is ours, which we had to tape up here in the booth because the bat broke off. It was rattling around in my backpack for a week. But we had to tape the bat on there. That's some of the staff provided the tape back here, our usually undependable staff. One in particular. So yeah, it kind of does look like Gerardo Parra's oven mitt while hitting. But those are the Goldie bobbleheads. This one's been all over the country, and you can get yours here on Saturday. Yunel Escobar at short has it after the second out. And this really, I think, Bob, is the signature item from this season. You got Paul Goldschmidt, who might be National League MVP. You've got the Diamondbacks fighting for a division title or a wild card spot, very much in the thick of the playoff race. Goldie's had a breakthrough season. He's gone from good to great. And so the Goldie bobblehead is the must-have item of the year.
We had a lot of fun with the Wade Miley Garden Gnome earlier this season, but I would tend to agree with you. Paul Goldschmidt is the bobblehead you want to have on your mantle at home.
Martin Prado, what a night he's had. He walked in the first. Hit his 10th home run of the season in the third. Doubled and scored in the 5th.
You see Goldie with that very abbreviated practice swing in the on-deck circle. We saw him down in the dugout between innings working it's almost like a chop. He just takes it from his shoulder right in front of his body, takes it back up to his shoulder right in front of his body, just trying to remind himself of certain keys in his swing.
It's funny, you'll see him doing that all the time as he walks around, as he steps in and out of the batter's box while he's up there. That same motion. What does that emphasize? What is he accomplishing with his hands by doing that?
Yeah, he's got for me, a very unusual swing for a big, strong guy. It's very short, very quick to the ball, and I think just that little chopping action reminds him to stay quick to the ball, short to the ball. You'll notice most of the time when he's in the on-deck circle, he never follows through with the swing. The only time he follows through is when he actually gets in the batter's box and makes contact.
It's full to Prado. McGee throws hard, consistent, 96, 98.
I mentioned earlier that he hadn't thrown any off-speed pitches to Will Nieves. Well, taking a look at one of the statistical websites, it's because he doesn't throw off-speed pitches.
Martin Prado lines that to the gap in right center, and he's on base for the 4th time tonight. Prado now a triple shy of the cycle. Boy, he is just red hot.
I think he passed red hot. He's white hot right now. Boy, just seeing the ball so well. It's such an underrated part of any batter's swing. You've got to track that ball as near the point of contact as you possibly can. And Martinez looking right down the barrel of that bat, making contact, driving the ball all over the field.
Goldie an RBI single in the first. He's 1 for 3. Hitting just over 230 since the All-Star break with 5 home runs. Drives that one to center field. Will Myers is there. And McGee strands the 2-out single. We are through 6. It's 7-4 Diamondbacks. Cletus and the Fox Sports girls in the house as Kelly Johnson leads off the 7th against Josh Colmentor. The Fox Sports 1 Fan Express is here. Countdown to launch. Fox Sports 1, America's new sports network, coming next month. Kelly Johnson, a home run in the 4th. He's 1 for 2. Johnson, Molina, and the pitcher spot here in the 7th. High chopper to second, Aaron Hill. 1 up, 1 down against Colmentor. Here's Molina. Jose Molina's 14th season in the big leagues. He's a career .239 hitter. Now, we've talked before, and I know I'm talking to a former catcher, so I know you won't take this personally, but when you think of catcher, this is what it's supposed to look like.
Okay.
No? We've talked about some guys, especially Will Nieves, who's a wiry guy back there, very athletic. But traditionally, you think of catcher, you think more of this style.
Yeah, there was a time he wasn't quite as rotund as he is right now. But yeah, not necessarily short, but almost as wide as he is tall.
6'2", 250. Jose Molina, 38 years old.
One of 18 trios of brothers to play in the major leagues. Of course, his other brother Benji and Yadier, all catchers, but they're the only set of brothers to each have World Series rings. 2 each, as a matter of fact.
I believe Benji is a coach with the Rangers, isn't he, right now?
I believe you're right, yeah.
And, of course, Yachty are still going strong. And here in his 14th year is Jose as they play America's favorite game, Name That Molina. In this case, the correct answer is Jose. Jose, since July the 2nd, batting under 200. From Puerto Rico, originally a 14th round pick by the Cubs in the '93 draft.
There's a story in the Rays media guide about the Molina's father, Benjamin Sr. Worked 10-hour shifts at a factory, used to come directly home, grab his glove, go across the street to the park, and throw batting practice and work out with the 3 brothers. Can you imagine the pride he must feel?
Oh.
I mean, you turn on any ball game and one of your sons is playing, you know?
You got a shot.
Wow. That's amazing. Congratulations to the Molina family. They should all be very proud.
And Jose doesn't get quite the credit for being a great defensive catcher that Yadier gets. But a lot of the Rays pitchers have talked about his ability to frame pitches. And he can get you the occasional knock. Aaron Hill almost collides with Didi out there. Would have been a tough play anyway, but Molina's aboard. So Jose Molina 2 for 3, pair of singles.
Yeah, normally you wouldn't even think about throwing to first base on that one from shallow center field, but because it was Molina running down that first base line, Aaron Hill was going to try the jump throw all in one motion. Unfortunately, got a little bit too close to Didi out there, and that ended that plan.
Pitcher spot is due up, and they will send up a Wolverine. Luke Scott, look out. Everybody appears to be okay, and they will put the shift on here. The entire Diamondbacks infield stays in position but sort of rotates clockwise here. You see Chavez, the third baseman, near second, and Gregorius, the shortstop, on the first base side of second.
Yeah, they use this shift differently depending on the personnel on the infield. When Martin Prado plays third base, he's the guy to move to the right side of the infield. Didi stays at the shortstop position, but with Eric Chavez playing third, they just scoot everybody over to the right side and leave Chavez alone on the left side.
Luke Scott, lots of room over there to drop down a bunt, and he will take it. Surprised you don't see more guys do that?
Yeah, I am, depending on the score of the ball game, obviously, where you're at in the lineup and various other variables. But, yeah, trailing by 3 runs, the Rays just need base runners right now. That's a pretty smart move by Scott. That's almost like a sack bunt. He squared around so early, just wanted to make sure he got it on the ground, kept it fair to the left side of the infield. Easy bunt hit.
And Luke Scott, batting under $130 since the All-Star break, has an easy bunt single. That's now 12 hits for Tampa Bay. They have out-hit the Diamondbacks 12-10, but they trail at 7-4. Will Harris warming up. And a quick mound visit for Charles Nagy.
At the plate, the second baseman.
Josh Colemanter worked Sunday in Boston, had a rough afternoon. He allowed 2 runs on 4 hits with a walk, retired only 1 batter. And he's got 2 on with 1 out here for the top of the order. It's Ben Zobrist. Phone ringing in the Diamondback bullpen. Zobrist 1 for 3, doubled and scored in the first. And Zobrist sitting on 99 career home runs. He's been facing number 100 for the last 14 games. And this is a guy with 3 career 20 homer seasons, including the last 2. Oh, excuse me, check swing to Chavez at third. Aaron Hill, and they can't turn the double play. Zobrist beats it out. But they get the force on Scott at second for the second out. Molina to third.
Yeah, because it was an excuse me swing, the ball didn't get to Chavez quite as quickly as it might have. Very close down there at first. Got quite a reaction from the fans on the first base side of the field. Zobrist really busting it down that first baseline. Looked to me like he beat it, but yeah, it was close.
Good call by Mike Everett at first base. Nice job by the umpires, the human non-robot umpires. And here's Matt Joyce, who's had a big night so far, 3 for 3, including an RBI double. There's a strike, 0-1. Matt Joyce's last home run, June 15th. He's hit under 180 since then with only 3 RBIs. One of those RBIs tonight, back in the first. Holmenter jumps ahead, 0-2. Molina, the runner at third, Zobrist at first. Being pretty careful with a guy that's got occasional power. Evan Longoria has consistent power, and he's on deck. In the dirt, and it's full, 3-2. Will Nieves behind the plate.
Digging him out, blocking those balls in the dirt with the runner at third. Keep him right where he is. Now, there was a time last year and years before where 3-2 count with 2 outs in the inning, runners at the corners, you'd see that fake to third, wheel to first move, but that's no longer legal in the game of baseball.
Not anymore.
Don't do it.
3-2, 2 outs. Zobrist off with a pitch at first. That's high for ball 4, and the bases are loaded. And Kirk Gibson has seen enough. He will call the right-hander. Josh Holmenter has seen his numbers go up a bit since July the 1st. His numbers, or his ERA since then, almost 5. He's got a couple of outs here, but the bases are full. And the Rays have the go-ahead run coming to the plate in Evan Longoria. Pitching change. We'll take a break. Your link to what's next. By Mazda. We believe if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. And by Lone Butte Casino. You're in for more winning moments at Lone Butte Casino. Bases full of Rays here at Chase Field. 36th appearance of the year for Will Harris. He's worked 30 innings, allowed 28 hits while striking out 35, and he's got the bases loaded. With 2 outs, he'll work to Evan Longoria, and it's deja vu all over again for Will Harris. Base hit. That's a fair ball down the line. Molina will score. Zobrist will score. Joyce heads for third. He'll stop there. Evan Longoria, a 2-run double. Well, Will Harris, Sunday in Boston, came into a 1-out bases loaded jam in the 5th. Got a pair of pop-ups to strand the bases full, but 1 pitch to Longo has made it a 1-run game.
Ambushes that first delivery, a cut fastball, belt high, middle of the plate. Good hitters don't miss that one very often. Couldn't have come at a more inopportune time for Will Harris and the D-backs.
And now Will Harris will have to deal with Sam Fuld. How about this? Going to pinch hit for Will Myers right here, the hottest hitter on the planet. How about this, Bob Brennan?
Yeah, that's a little puzzling.
Will Myers has been the best hitter in baseball since the All-Star break. He's 2 for 3 tonight with a pair of singles. And you're going to replace him with Sam Fuld for this at bat.
I'm not sure if there's something physically wrong with Will Myers that would prevent him from taking this at bat, but it's a little bit of a head scratcher here.
Don't seem to see Will Myers anywhere in the dugout, so he might be injured. And Sam Fuld, who started the game in center field last night, will hit for Myers here. We don't see him in the dugout. We haven't gotten word on any injury. And Kirk Gibson will come out to the mound. Joe Thatcher is up. Discussion time. Fuld has walked back to the dugout to check in with Joe Madden. And now Tim Welke will check in with a mound visit. And that's it. Gibby has made the move. So it's a 1-pitch outing for Will Harris. It's a 7-6 ball game. We'll take a break. Is the left-handed specialist Joe Thatcher, his 54th appearance this year and his 4th since his arrival in Arizona at the trade deadline. Thatcher has made 3 appearances for the Diamondbacks, all scoreless. The first 2 he faced only 1 batter, David Ortiz. He retired Ortiz both times. He comes in now to another situation like that, only instead of Big Papi, he will face Super Sam Fuld with runners at second and third and 2 away. Will Myers out of the game with the undisclosed issue. He is not in the dugout, and so Sam Fuld will hit. Joyce is at third, Longoria at second. Reaches down and gets that one and knocks it into left. Joyce will score. Here's the throw to get Longoria. And it's not in time. He scores. The Rays take the lead. Longoria, first pitch swinging against Harris. Fold, first pitch against Thatcher. It's 8-7 Tampa Bay.
That looked a little bit like the swing Eric Chavez took to drive in some runs for the D-backs. Just dropped the bat on the ball, hit it to the opposite field in front of Martin Prado. Tried to get rid of it as quickly as possible. It was too much speed.
And now he'll work to the left-hander, James Loney. Wild ball game here at Chase Field. The Rays got 3 in the first against Randall Delgado. Diamondbacks got 1 back in the first as J.J. Putz warms up. Then Arizona answered with 3 in the third. Rays got 1 in the fourth. 3 more for the Diamondbacks in the fifth. And now it's a 4-run seventh here for Tampa Bay. They take an 8-7 lead. They have out-hit the Diamondbacks 14-10.
Sam Fuld now 6 for his last 11 with runners in scoring position. 7 runs driven in.
As usual, Joe Madden knew what he was doing.
Mentioned earlier, Fuld was one of the guys that came over here from the Cubs in the Matt Garza deal. He's been a big contributor to this team.
Good defender, certainly. Good pinch hitter. Good base runner. And a little bit of a left-handed A.J. Pollock.
That's a good call.
Well, James Loney got hot midway through June, and he's not let up. Since June 19th, he's hit .333. At one point last month, Loney had a 16-game hitting streak. He hit better than 400 during the streak. Thatcher trying to strand that runner at second. Joe Thatcher's outing Sunday in Boston was extended. The first 2 times he faced 1 guy. But on Sunday at Fenway Park, he worked 1 1/3. Loney lifts that one in the air to left. Martin Prado's underneath it. And that's the out. They strand Fuld at second base, but the Rays take the lead. CenturyLink, your link to what's next. Eric Chavez. He will lead it off in the 7th so far. He's 2 for 3. Joe Borowski joins us next. They'll face the new pitcher Joel Peralta as Chavez, Hill, and Ross Will bat in the 7th here for the D-backs, and Joe Borowski's up here in the booth with us. And Joe, this has been fairly, well, for the last month or so, a lockdown bullpen, but just tonight not the case.
Yeah, unfortunately, a few moves. They tried to counteract each other there, and Tampa Bay came out on the winning side of that one right there. Hopefully the Diamondbacks can find a way to get back in this game. Bob
used the word ambush because we saw the first 2 guys come in, the relievers, and both guys swung at first pitches for RBIs.
Well, a lot of times when you're a reliever coming in a game in that situation, you want to make sure you work ahead, but you also have to make quality pitches with those pitches. And unfortunately, you know, Harris and Thatcher both left hittable pitches out over the plate for the Rays, and they took advantage of it.
Well, Joe, going into this ball game, we anticipated a pitcher's duel because Randall Delgado's been so good for the D-backs lately, and Chris Archer was pitcher of the world in the month of July, and neither guy appeared to be on top of their game tonight.
And the biggest thing that I saw with Delgado today, and you got to give the Rays a lot of credit, they laid off his changeup today. They were really not biting on his changeup, and they were making him use his fastball and make it get up in the zone, and they were tattooing it.
Now, to do that, don't you have to, as the hitter, recognize changeup? So is he tipping something?
That very well may be. They might have seen something in video, and they showed all the players that, or maybe patterns, certain counts. He throws the pitch, but I thought they did an excellent job of laying off those changeups.
Yeah, how does that limit Randall as a pitcher if they're not biting on that change?
And that's what I was talking about during the pregame. Is he's going to? There's very few pitchers as starters that can go as a 2-pitch pitcher. He's going to have to be able to throw that curveball and be able to throw it with consistency over the plate in order to be able to get to that next level as a starter in this league.
1-2 to Chavez.
And it certainly appeared for Randall tonight. Not only was he having trouble with the changeup, they were laying off the changeup. He just wasn't able to locate his fastball. Left a lot of them up in the middle of the plate.
And you guys said it perfectly. When he's effective, he works down in the zone with his fastball, and he's able to locate it in and out. I didn't think he was able to throw his fastball in at all tonight. And when he was throwing everything as a hitter coming up, all you're doing is looking away because he didn't show inside at all, and he didn't show that he could throw a strike inside.
Chavez strikes out looking, 1 down in the 7th.
Peralta getting a little tricky out there on the mound. That was a quick pitch to Eric Chavez right there. Didn't take hardly any windup at all. A very abbreviated windup and just fires home. Looked like he caught Chavez in between there on his stride toward the mound. Couldn't do anything but watch that one go by.
Well, he painted it too, right on the corner. Aaron Hill, a pair of RBI doubles his last 2 times up.
Now look at the difference in this delivery. Coming up into the set position, the high leg kick, and then he lets it go toward the plate. That last pitch to Chavez, he just...
Don't you have to come set?
No,
not with anybody on base.
Man. Not with nobody on base. Relievers coming out of the bullpen. Many of them throw out of the stretch now. They can play fast and loose out there.
This is what relievers who don't throw in the mid-90s. This is what you have to resort to.
You got to come up with something. Trickeration. Now, were you a quick pitch or slide step guy or anything?
No, I was a creature of habit. If I tried doing all that stuff, it would be even a bigger mess than it actually was. So I just went out there and I just tried to locate the best I could on the corners and let it go from there.
He's got that little glove shake when he does come to the belt there. That he kind of, it's like he strengthens his grip on the baseball and kind of gives it a little tug there.
And a lot of times you'll find pitchers who throw a lot of different pitches. You can only hold the ball one way when you're getting set. So if it's a pitch where you have to really change, they'll get used to it and they'll do it on every single pitch. So it doesn't. You can't just say, all right, whenever he does this, he's tipping his pitch. So he'll pretty much do it on all his pitches.
When he comes to the belt, right there. Aaron Hill drives that down the left field line, and that ball is foul. He did it again. Did that last night. Boy, he might lead the majors in near misses down the left field line.
Home run distance, just on the wrong side of the pole down that left field line.
Still 1-2. So what do you think of this 3, 4, and 5 right, left, right Goldie, Xavi, Hill combo in the middle of this lineup?
I like what I've seen the last 2 days. If you can get those 3 guys going and get Eaton and Prado to start getting on base like they have the last few days, look out.
Another strikeout for Peralta, 2 down. Here's Cody Ross.
And the biggest thing it does with having Chavez in the middle of him is it makes it tougher for the other managers to do matchups. So you're going to have to waste at least 2 pitchers if you make that change in between.
Cody batting almost 400 over his last 13 games. We talked, Joe, at the top of the show about the idea that J.J. Putz and Heath Bell, guys who had been in that closer's role in blown saves, neither one has given up a run since they've been sort of shifted unofficially to 7th, 8th inning kind of duties, and it really has created a pretty good bridge to Brad Ziegler as the closer.
And that's the thing is I don't foresee Gibby making any moves as long as Ziggy keeps being successful.
Yeah.
Then you're just messing up the whole harmony, and you see it's not phasing Bell or Putz at all. They're getting themselves back into position where, if needed, if Ziegler stumbles down the road, they can be inserted in there. But I agree with Gibby. Why mess something up that's working?
The bridge to Brad, since they each blew saves, neither guy's given up a run. Cody Ross gets down and pulls that one down the line and right. 1-2. Dodgers now a final, by the way. They beat up the Cardinals in St. Louis 13-4. So the Diamondbacks here will need to come back and win the game just to keep pace.
Hey, Joe, you want to feel old real quick?
Sure.
Mike Trout celebrating a birthday today. He was born in 1991.
Wow. He homered tonight, too, Mike Trout.
On his 22nd birthday.
High chopper, Longoria comes over at third, and it's a 1-2-3-7 for Peralta. Joe, thanks. We'll see you on the postgame show.
Looking forward to it, guys.
Rays lead at 8-7. Our Chevron next game matchup, off day tomorrow, back here on Friday to open a series up against the Mets, and Patrick Corbin, the ace, is on the mound.
I always like it when Patrick Corbin's on the mound, matched up against right-hander Jeremy Hefner. And just in case you're wondering, Diamondbacks will miss Matt Harvey in that series. He threw a 4-hit shutout against the Rockies tonight, 5-0 blanking.
We are thunderstruck. 27th appearance for J.J. Putz. He's allowed only 18 hits in 22 innings, and he is not allowed a home run in any of his last 13 appearances. We were just talking about this. J.J., much like Heath Bell, has flourished in a setup role in this revamped D-backs bullpen. Since his last blown save on July the 1st at the Mets, coincidentally, not ironically, he has not allowed a run. Given up, in fact, only 3 hits in 8 innings, 10 consecutive scoreless appearances. And the splitter is still a work in progress, but the slider seems to have replaced that pitch for J.J. Buck.
Yeah, kind of went back to the slider. He was basically fastball splitter in the early part of the season. A slider, a pitch that he has used in the past, but kind of stuck it in his back pocket early this season. But he's broken it back out, and it's been very effective for him.
Yunel Escobar 2 for 3. And Escobar has been a key offensive player in this lineup now with Desmond Jennings injured. He's hit safely in 10 of his last 11 games. Eric Chavez. Quickly one out here in the 8th. This brings up Kelly Johnson, who homered in the 4th. Joe Madden trying to figure out how to play this. He's got the bottom of the order to face for the Diamondbacks in the 8th, Nieves, Gregorius, and the pitcher's spot. Johnson 1 for 3.
And partner, have a good this day in baseball history.
Oh, all right. What do you got?
1962, on this day, the Mets were eliminated.
As a franchise?
No.
Oh.
They were 29 and 81.
Oh, Kelly Johnson 2 for 4.
That's a rough year.
Choo Choo Coleman.
Oh, man.
Was Choo Choo on that team?
I'd have to look that up.
Marvelous Marv Throneberry.
They won just 11 more games over the next 2 months of the season.
Peralta wants to hit. Let me check out the 62 Mets. One of the worst teams in baseball history.
Oh, yeah. Boy, you're looking that up. I'll point out another one. In 1971, Oakland A's left-hander Vida Blue picked up his 20th victory of the season on this date. On the way to a 24-8 season.
Vida. Jose Molina 2 for 3, a pair of singles. Allen is rolled to short. Gregorius, Hill, Goldschmidt. That ends the inning. Diamondbacks turn another double play. We head to the home half of the 8th. They trail at 8-7. getting a chance to hit.
A lot of American League pitchers don't look forward to this. This is when he was walking off after the last half inning. He was out there on the mound. Yeah, now he's fired up. Gets back in the dugout, gets a helmet on, got his bat ready. David Price heating up the batting gloves.
So he goes out on deck, but then Molina with one out hits into a double play, and he never got to go up.
Well, he does have a hit in the big leagues back with the Kansas City Royals in the 07 season. One at bat, hit a double, then had 3 at bats for the Nationals in the 2010 season. Was 0 for 3 in that season.
It'll work to Will Nieves, Didi Gregorius, and the pitcher spots. 7, 8, 9 here in the 8th inning. Diamondbacks down 8-7. Quickly, you mentioned the 62 Mets. So a lot of people forget that Frank Thomas was on that team and hit 34 home runs for the 62 Mets. Now, hold on, not the big hurt. The other Frank Thomas. There was another Frank Thomas who, in the major leagues, played a long time, 16 years, and hit 286 career home runs. Played for the Pirates, the Reds, the Cubs, Phillies, Milwaukee Braves. By the way, Choo Choo Coleman did play on the 62 Mets, hit 250 that year. There's the strike, and Nieves 0-1. One of the great baseball nicknames of all time. Nieves an RBI sac flies last time up. He's 0 for 2. That's a short hop. Got another on this day in baseball for you there, BB. August 7, 2010. Gonzo's number was retired at Chase Field.
Rightfully so.
Earlier we saw a shot of Gonzo's Legends photo across the street. Going to add one there soon. There's the number 20. Next to Jackie Robinson's 42. 1-1 to Will Nieves. Whoa.
Peralta spending a little bit too much time worrying about his offense.
He threw one about 45 feet, and then another one almost behind Nieves' head unintentionally. Big part of Will Nieves' success this year is his ability to hit right-hand pitching. As a right-hand hitter, he's batting almost 400 versus righties this year. And he's ahead 2-1. Center field, Sam Fuld on the run. He tracks it down in the gap near the pool, 1 away. Hey fans, get ready for Fox Sports 1, America's new 24-hour sports network. There's Cletus joining us at Chase Field today. Fox Sports 1 will be your home for great live sports, all the news and highlights you want, and shows and specials that only Fox could bring you. America's new sports network is coming soon. Fox Sports 1 launches August 17th. The Fox Sports 1 Fan Express and all the Fox Sports girls are here with us today. So it's been a big day. Chase Field, Cletus, who, as we showed you earlier, looks exactly like Jose Molina behind the plate. Here's Didi. By the way, we have news on what happened to Will Myers. He had to leave with some asthma issues. Will is battling asthma, and he had to leave the ball game. That's from the Tampa Bay Rays, so that's the reason for the change there with Sam Fuld. Another one of those EFA sliders he's throwing, or whatever they are. 2-0.
All right, Didi's had a couple of good at bats against left-handers in this game. Lined out to right, flied out deep to center. Swing looks a little more compact tonight than we've seen it recently.
Yeah, both the balls really well hit. Drops that one in there for a strike. 2-1. Brad Ziegler warming up. ball to slipped in the Kyle Farnsworth divot, maybe in the front of that mound. And he's behind now, 3-1.
Yeah, sometimes your cleat will hit, like I said, on the side of that hole, at the beginning of it, at the end of it. If you don't land just right, obviously it throws your entire balance off. Your arm angle changes, your release point changes.
Gerardo Parra is out on deck. Here's the 3-1. Miss there. Diamondbacks have the tying run aboard with 1 out here in the 8th. And here comes Gerardo Parra. Since June 23rd, batting under 150. His batting average since that time has dropped almost 50 points, 266, the lowest it's been this year. And he is just flat out due. He's had a little bit of a breather here, and we'll see if that can energize Gerardo after a long season. Tying run on first with 1 out in the 8th. Didi Gregorius does not have a stolen base this year. He's been caught twice. Parra goes down and gets that and knocks it into left center. Didi is flying into third. Tying run 90 feet away. Gerardo Parra brings the want.
A lot of hitting coaches will use the term work your way back around. When you're in a slump, a lot of times it's because you're trying to pull everything. That's a nice piece of hitting right there by Gerardo Parra. Took a fastball low and away, sliced it into that gap in left center, sending Didi all the way around to third.
And we're going to have a double switch here from Joe Madden. He's out there talking to Tim Welke, the crew chief and the plate umpire, as Adam Eaton comes up. D-backs with a tying run at third. Go ahead run at first. And Joe Madden is maneuvering. Adam Eaton has been on base twice tonight. 2 for 4, a pair of singles. He scored twice, and Madden will make the move here. Diamondbacks threatening in the 8th. Don't go anywhere. Pitching change. We're coming right back. They have 2 on with 1 out and a new pitcher on for the Tampa Bay Rays. Time for the Firestone Complete Auto Care Extra Mile Index. Most days above 500 this year. There are the Arizona Diamondbacks, third of the major leagues. Right behind the Braves and the Red Sox. And how about this, Bob Brenly? Joe Madden has gone to the closer. This is Fernando Rodney. He's converted his last 18 save opportunities since May 27th. He comes in here with 1 out in the 8th and 2 on.
Well, and because he is going to his closer in this situation, and the pitcher spot was due up first in the top half of the 9th inning, he's had to make a double switch. Sean Rodriguez has come in to play left field for Kelly Johnson. He will bat in the 9 spot. Rodney will then hit in the 7 spot. Fastball changeup combination from Rodney.
Didi Gregorius is the tying run at third. Gerardo Parra, the go-ahead run at first. 1 out. And Rodney will work to Adam Eaton. Adam Eaton is 2 for 4. 2 singles and 2 runs scored. Good speed on the bases for the Diamondbacks. Trying to at least get that tying run home from third.
Safety squeeze not out of the question here. Eaton showing bunt that time. Tough to double up Adam Eaton coming out of that left-handed batter's box. A good speed at first in Gerardo Parra. Good speed at third in Didi Gregorius. This is a situation that could go a lot of different directions depending on what Gibby wants to do and what Rodney allows him to do.
And the difference between the suicide squeeze and the safety squeeze?
Suicide squeeze, Didi is coming down that line. No question about it.
Safety squeeze.
Safety squeeze, he waits to see the bunt on the ground and determines whether or not he can safely score.
And so what does that do for Evan Longoria at third base? Does he crash, keep an eye on Didi, stay even with a runner? How does he play?
He tries to stay even with the runner. At the same time, watch the bat. Watch Adam Eaton in the batter's box. See what he does. If you see him pull that bat down, you have to charge.
2-1.
Same thing for James Loney over there at first base. You try to watch the batter's hands and the bat. If you see him drop it out of that slot like Eaton does right there as he attempts this bunt, you have to come crashing in hard and assume there's going to be a play at the plate. If not, you should have plenty of time to easily turn around and get the out at first base, depending on where the bunt is.
2-1. Oof. Spun around like a top, and it's 3-1.
Right at it.
Oof. Martin Prado, who is 3 for 3 with a walk, is on deck. Prado a triple shy of the cycle. Eaton singled and scored in the first, singled and scored in the 5th. Ball 4. Bases full of Diamondbacks, and here comes the scorching hot Martin Prado. Walked in the first, 2-run homer in the 3rd, his 10th. Doubled and scored in the 5th and singled his last time up. And he will be our APS Energy All-Star. And this is a no-brainer here, Bob. What a night he's had.
Oh, tremendous night. 3 for 3, drew a walk back in the 1st inning. He scored a couple of runs, driven in a couple of runs.
Martin Prado hitting over 330 since June 25th. That was the start of that 10-game road trip through the NL East. He's raised his average for the season by 30 points since then. Didi Gregorius is the tying run at third. Gerardo Parra the go-ahead run at second. Adam Eaton aboard at first. 8-7 here in the 8th. 1 away for Prado. There's the strike, 0-1. It's 9-8 Diamondbacks.
Not the same aggressive swing we've seen from Prado tonight. He fights this one off. A high fastball got jammed a little bit, but muscles it out there in front of Matt Joyce in right field. Looked like there was going to be a play at the plate, but Parra made up ground quickly coming down that third base line and scores with a slide to give the D-backs a lead.
How about the night for Martin Prado? 4 for 4 with a walk. Here's Goldie. Can't hold up there. It's 0-1. Goldie 1 for 4. RBI single in the first. Diamondbacks now with 12 hits. 15 for the Rays, but Arizona leads at 9-8. Eaton aboard at second, Prado at first. One and one.
I'm not sure if there's a strategic advantage for Fernando Rodney to tip his cap as far as he does to the left side of his head there, but that's kind of his trademark thing.
Goldschmidt crosses one to left, and that ball is tracked down at the wall by Rodriguez. Wow, he gave it a ride. Oh. That jumped off the bat. Two outs. Here's Chavez.
Came off the bat nicely, just didn't care. He might have got in on him just a little bit. Got under it just a little bit. Yeah, down near the trademark. Still muscles it out there to the wall and straight away left field.
Fans on their feet here at Chase. Here's Chavez. 2 down now. Trying to get some insurance for the closer, Brad Ziegler.
First blown save for Rodney since May 25th against the Yankees. With the blown save here tonight, 27 for 33 on the season.
'98, 1-2. Eric Chavez has hit safely in 9 of his last 11 games, including a pair of homers, batting about .330 over that span. Down and gets that, but it's foul. Diamondbacks now with a chance to hand these Rays their first series loss since the middle of June, 49 games ago. Tampa Bay 11-0-2 in its last 13 series. But the D-backs in line here for a 2-game sweep of this set if they can hang on. Kirk Gibson may never change lineups again after the last 2 games. 2-2. Chases that one, and that's the inning. They strand 2, but they get 2 in. Brad Ziegler will come on and try to close out a 9-8 lead. Martin Prado, what a night. A huge 2-run single has made it 9-8 D-backs as we head to the ninth. 9-8, and the closer is on. Brad Ziegler for the 57th time this season. A 4-1 record, 6 saves, an ERA at 2.15. And since he has become the closer in early July, Brad Ziegler 6 for 6 in save opportunities. In fact, in that time, he has not given up an earned run. He's allowed 10 hits in 11 innings as the closer. He worked last night against Tampa Bay, pitched the ninth with a 6-1 lead, allowed 1 hit, and struck out 2. Defensive changes for the Diamondbacks. Cody Ross has moved from right to left, so it's Ross in left. Gerardo Parra's in there. He'll take over for Ross in right. So Ross, Eaton, Parra left to right in the Diamondbacks outfield. Jose Lobaton will pinch hit for Rodriguez after the double switch. Eric Chavez also out of the game for the Diamondbacks, and Martin Prado will take over at third base. Prado had been playing left. What a night for Eric Chavez. 2 for 5, 2 singles, an RBI. He scored twice. 2-2 on Lobaton. Jose Lobaton since July 1st hitting just over $190.
D-backs have tied a club record tonight, turning 5 double plays. The 5th time in their history they've turned 5 double plays in a game.
And Didi has had a spectacular night defensively. Aaron Hill turning double plays all night. 2-2 to Jose Lobaton. Broken bat, roll to second. Hill is there. 1 out. Hey fans, catch the rest of this 2013 season in HD quality with MLB.TV. You can watch every out-of-market game live on over 350 supported mobile devices. So visit MLB.TV today. It's baseball everywhere. Ben Zobrist doubled and scored back in the first. Talked about, Bob, over the course of this year, one of the things Kevin Towers likes about this bullpen and the way it's constructed, the different arm angles that guys have, and we've seen really all of them in this game. A little bit of everything. Zobrist is aboard with a 1-out single. Delgado, and then you have Colementor coming over the top. That's your sort of 3-quarter now. Brad Ziegler from underneath.
Well, if you don't have a bunch of guys down there that are throwing 100 miles an hour, you better have some variance, some different looks. Well, they can certainly provide that. Here's Matt Joyce. He's been on base 4 times tonight. 2 singles, an RBI double, and a walk. He scored a run. Tying run at first, 1 out here in the 9th. 1-0. You mentioned the double plays, Bob. Take one more right now. Yeah.
Got to be careful with these next couple of hitters. They do have good power. Joyce here, and of course Longoria on deck. Longoria homer here last night.
Pretty impressive tonight what the Diamondbacks were able to do against one of the better bullpens in baseball. 8 runs against the Rays bullpen tonight.
In a game that they trailed 3-0 after a half inning. 2-1. Ben Zobrist, the tying run at first. And Gerardo Parra, who has been slumping, a huge pinch hit. Three and one. Ball 4. Tying and now go ahead runs on base for the Rays with 1 out. And here comes Evan Longoria.
Longoria 1 for 4 lifetime against Brad Ziegler with a walk. Looking for that double play ball.
Ben Zobrist is the tying run at second. Matt Joyce the go-ahead run at first. Longoria 2-run double. He scored a run his last time up. Ziegler falls behind again, 1-0. Longoria since July 2nd, hitting under 190. There's a strike, 1-1.
If you're looking for the double play ball, you got the right guy on the mound since the 08 season. 79 double plays induced by Brad Ziegler.
This could be it right here. Aaron Hill, Didi Gregorius, Paul Goldschmidt, and they roll it and they win the game. That's a Diamondbacks record 6th double play, and they sweep Tampa Bay. And Bob Brenly, that's come from behind win number 31 this year.
Boy, and it took everybody up and down the lineup. Nearly everybody in that bullpen. Hard ground ball back up the middle of the field. Hill smothers it. Didi on the move across the bag. Turns it into an easy game-ending double play. Thing of beauty.
Look at how pretty that is. And he throws it right on the money to Goldie. Fist pump for Aaron Hill. And a wild game here at Chase Field, won by the Diamondbacks. They get the off day tomorrow, and they can sit back and enjoy 2 hard-earned wins against the Tampa Bay Rays. Their 23rd win this year in 1-run games. So everybody's feeling good right now. They're out hit 16-12, but they win it 9-8. They keep pace with the Dodgers, and they'll take a well-deserved off day tomorrow before welcoming in the Mets over the weekend. So it's a D-back sweep. Let's head out to center field. Joe and Jody, guys.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Alongside Joe Borowski. Joe, we've ripped up the rundown a number of times tonight.
Oh, yeah.
The storylines have changed. One thing we know, though, D-backs with their 31st comeback victory, and actually had to come back twice. It's a funny game, but the offense absolved the mistakes of the relievers earlier in this game.
Great to see the offense, especially the last 2 days. 15 runs, can't be ignored. Great to see them coming alive. But, Jody, there's something that I don't want to overlook that allowed the Diamondbacks to even be in this game, and we're definitely going to touch on that.
Can't wait to hear it. And, of course, we've got it all coming your way on our post-game show. Diamondbacks Live, presented by CenturyLink. When we come back, just a beautiful double play here to end the game, the 6th on the night. That's a record for the Diamondbacks. Stay with us. We'll have reaction. Brad Steinke will be down on the field and in the clubhouse. It's all coming your way after the break.